The population, Coca-Cola has over 85 jobs. Yeah, that's a lot.
All right, you ready?
That's the.
Okay.
It's 250 years. It's never right on jobs, but yeah, it's not.
Like always.
So, whatever.
Yeah, I have 176 minutes with that. When you go, not big, but it's like a lot.
Certainly right. There's so much chicken by that.
Yeah.
So you got speak of community and never do my own kid. I had a experience. Your checks. I don't take on the chat.
Sandwiches.
So, so. It's not cottage.
Different levels.
That's what I did. One of those, yeah.
Test, test. Okay, can everyone hear me? Everyone online, can you folks hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, we are now calling to order the regular meeting of the Ala Moana Kaka'ako Neighborhood Board for April at 6:03 p.m. The neighborhood board is here to encourage civic engagement and to ensure and talk about bettering our neighborhood so it is a place where we can live, work, play, and thrive. We have Camellia who will be taking our role.
Okay, roll call. Chang,
Here.
Chi, not here yet. Chung, not here yet. Davis, Barinas, Behringer, I see you online. Chair Lee,
Here.
Mariano, Rice, Vanderbrink. Members present.
Thank you, Ms. Kamaya Gomes. Moving on to public safety reports, we have the Honolulu Fire Department, and I do want to commend the department for not only sending us a written report very early in the month, but also being here in person today. So thank you for being here.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Captain Gibo, Station 2, Paua Fire Station. This is the April statistics for Paua Fire Station. We had 2 building fires, 2 nuisance fires, 26 activated alarms, responded to 133 medicals, and 7 motor vehicle collisions, and no rescues. Safety tip for the month for April is evacuation planning. Ensure you have an emergency preparedness plan in place for situations like environmental emergencies, fires, or natural disasters. Familiarize yourself with at least 2 escape routes from your home and plan an evacuation path if you must. Even able due to an emergency. For more information, visit fire.honolulu.gov. Some tips: leave early to avoid getting trapped by fire, smoke, or traffic delays. Set up a predetermined meeting spot like a trusted neighbor or relative's home, a low-risk area, a shelter, or evacuation center. And bring your emergency supply kit with essential items for your family and your pets. Is there any questions tonight from anyone?
Questions from the board? Member Mariano.
Yeah, thanks for all what you folks do and keeping us safe. Question I had, when you respond with EMS.
Respond with EMS.
With EMS, yes. How many homeless do you treat? Do you have a statistics on that?
No, we don't. I don't have that off the top of my head, but we do go to a few homeless. I know that even with the 4 ambulance, I believe you guys see the red and white ones kind of cruising around. I know they try to implement and try to help us out just to untax the services of the community, but fortunately, there's not too many of them around too. Yeah, and they kind of, we always used to see them in Waikiki, so to speak, and they hardly ever come out to this side. Yeah.
The reason I ask is I've seen an increase in the last 2 or 3 weeks, particularly early in the mornings, and then also late at night.
Yeah, I mean, so we normally just respond if there is usually a passerby or a bystander that feels that whoever's homeless looks a little sicker than normal, so to speak, and that's the people that we go to. Sometimes people are just there just to that's where they lay and sleep at night. But
Yeah, so Madam Chair, the only reason I bring that up, because, I've been talking for years about the infrastructure. So HPD and HFD, I think they're being taxed more and more. And this is something I think that the board should kind of address to bring up to the elected officials so that we can provide some support from our part, bringing it up, and then maybe reaching out to the other neighborhood. It becomes a taxation on them, not from funding, but mainly for resources to help them with recruiting.
Member Mariano, Member Davis?
Hi, just a general question.
Go for it.
More so in just your observation in our neighborhood, what kind of are you noticing any trends that you feel like we should be noticing or aware of, and what supports the fire department might need from us as a neighborhood? Or public education we can help to promote. I know the monthly tip might be one of them.
Well, that's a pretty interesting question. I think as a whole, it's hard to point one thing, as far as what would help us out, so to speak. And like, from my opinion is, we just respond to when people call. Yeah, it's hard for us to determine what causes what or what people should do to avoid getting injured, avoid getting sick, so on and so forth. That's a really hard question to kind of answer. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, it's a good question. No, it's a great question.
Thank you, Member Davis. Any other board members? Okay. Member Farinas.
Hi, Captain. Thank you for being here. And I do recall that you folks would have campaigns and going to the schools and doing prevention tips and stuff like that, right? That's still ongoing.
Oh, yes, we do. Yeah, we do.
So you start them young in terms of educating.
So every year we have our fire prevention week. Usually it's in October, and we do visit elementary schools and give brochures and handouts. And we also invite them to the stations if they wanted to. They just need to make an appointment, and we can perform a little thing with them and just give them some background. Yeah, but it's nothing really, concrete. But it's just mainly for the kids kind of deal. Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. We do have a CRR department that anyone can contact if they have any needs or any questions that, we can help them out. And
They're great.
okay.
Thank you. Any other questions, board members? Okay, Captain Gibo and Honolulu Fire Department, thank you for being here today. Thank you. Thank you. Oh.
Thank you.
Okay, Honolulu Police Department. If we can have either Officer Osterchuk or Mochizuki.
Yes, Sergeant Ostachuk, you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. Sergeant Ostachuk, District 1, Honolulu PD. For the month of March, motor vehicle thefts, we had 10. The previous month we had 7, so that's a 7 decrease in numbers. Burglaries, we had 5. The previous month we had 6, so that's a decrease in 1. Various types of thefts. Last month we had 91. The previous month we had 101, so that's a 10 decrease. Unauthorized entry into motor vehicles, we had 12. The previous month we had 22, so that's another 10 decrease. Assaults, last month we had 25. The previous month we had 16. So you're looking about a 9 increase in that one. Sex assaults, we had 5. The previous month is 8, so we had 3 decrease in numbers. Graffitis is 0 across the board for both months. Various types of drug offenses. Last month we had 17. The previous month for that we had 9. So we're looking at about a 8 increase in numbers. Service in the month of March was 3,475 compared to 3,143 the previous month. So about a 300 number increase in calls for last month as compared to February. The safety tip that we would like to give for this meeting is pedestrian safety. What we suggest and encourage for all pedestrians when they're crossing lanes of traffic, crossing the road, even on the side of sidewalks, is just keep your head on the swivel for vehicles, because vehicles and their drivers are always in a rush. They don't pay attention to pedestrians, or they think that their right of way also supersedes the pedestrians, which it doesn't. We've seen a big increase in pedestrian hit and runs, a couple of fatalities, unfortunately, and then just people getting injured by vehicles themselves. Also, for pedestrian safety, we also include, keep your head on a swivel for when you're just walking on the sidewalk for criminal activity, because criminals are also looking for you as well. What we suggest for females is to, when they're walking on the sidewalk and they're carrying a purse or their bag, is try not to have it slung on their shoulder where it's hanging by their side or their back. More sling it towards the front of you, where it's kind of like more of a fanny pack strapped across your shoulders and your chest. Reason that being is they're less inclined to take it off your persons when they see you right in front of your persons, right? They don't want to make eye contact. They're usually going to try to rip it from behind or rip it from the side of you, which would cause you to fall down. Also, keep aware of when you are also walking on the sidewalk that people are looking at you in an aggressive manner, eye contact, because they're trying to measure you up in a sense, right? To see if you're aware that you're looking at them, or if they're gonna if you're a threat to them. That's all I have. Is there any questions?
Thank you, Sergeant Osachuk. Board members, questions? Member Mariano, and then Member Vanderbrink. Okay, Member Vanderbrink first.
Hi, Sergeant. So I noticed in your report you said there is 0 instances of graffiti. I
Correct.
think this was brought up before, but that's 0 instances in which you are called out and have to do a report on it, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. I do want to mention, because we had a giant piece of graffiti painted on top of the parking structure connected to the old Ross in the last month, and it is getting more graffiti. There is getting more of a homeless population that is encamping really on and around it. And I just want to bring it up in the hopes that maybe you can tell the officers that drive by to try and keep an eye on it more. I'm not necessarily saying officers be sent there more often, but I do see a lot of police that pass by because of the roadways that are next to it. And I'm just hoping they can keep an eye on it, especially during the overnight hours, to try and keep the graffiti down, and hopefully they're not getting any trouble with the homeless people that are encamping there.
I'll note that down, and I'll pass it on to the midnight watch officers who do patrol that area.
Right, that would be much appreciated. I did have 2 quick questions as well in relationship. There has been a lot of talk about dogs in the last few weeks in relation to our parks. And I'm wondering, do you happen to have any statistics on the tickets that are issued either to off-leash dogs or to dogs that are in parks where they're not allowed?
As far as in the parks total in the area, no. However, I can tell you in the last 2 weeks, all of Moana Beach Park, the shifts I have worked, there's been at least one park rules and regulation, which that violation would fall under, citation issued a day. So we're looking at about 6 citations issued in the last 2 weeks.
Okay, and that's just for dogs in the parks. Do you know about tickets in relation to off-leash dogs, either in public areas or in the parks? Or is that
No,
just for dogs in the parks?
Yeah, this is for dogs in the parks. All of Moana Beach Park is a total no dogs whatsoever in that park at all. There are Mother Waldron is a dog park where you're allowed to have, I believe, an off leash as long as they're within but basically the dogs are behaving themselves, as well as Thomas Square. Thomas Square is the leashed park though.
Okay, thank you, Sergeant.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Member Mariano?
Yes, Sergeant, just follow up on the graffiti. So you reported that last month there was 0 graffiti. Is that correct?
As far as the numbers for calls for service, yes.
Okay, so my question to you then is that the graffiti on public areas where you can do something? Because like my colleague said here, you know, Ross is a private facility and there's
Right.
other private businesses and also, what do they call it? The nice murals that's up there that's already starting to get tagged with graffitis. And I know that residents are trying to cover for that, but it's a never-ending battle. So is it possible for future reference to keep track of graffiti calls for private so that at least we know? Because if you're saying there's no graffiti and you just drive around, there's a plethora of graffiti all around. And then the other thing is, I noticed there's also a big increase in texting and driving, particularly during peak period on the freeway. And normally it would take me from Kent Smith to come back home, maybe about 15, 20 minutes, but now it's been taking 45 minutes to an hour, 15 or longer. And a lot of that is because of graffiti, not graffiti, but texting and driving. So it's, if you can pass that on to the traffic, if they can put more vigilance on that to get these individuals off the road because it's causing more hindrance and possible accidents. Thank you.
No problem. I will do.
Thank you, Member Mariano, Member Farringer, and then Member Freenius. Member Farringer, we are unable to hear you right now. Still no sound. Okay, let's have Member Farringer figure that out. We'll move to Member Freenius first.
Hi, Sergeant Osachek.
Hi.
My question for you, you rattled off some of the statistics, and my curiosity is in the ghost guns. What's happening with that, especially in our neighborhood?
As far as ghost guns, I know that are plainclothes units. I don't have an exact number for you, but myself reading the daily highlights, we have a highlight board on the internet we have that notates crimes, or not crimes reported, but crimes that were basically enforced. I have seen an increase in arrests or stops with ghost guns, and then our plainclothes units have been. I can't give you the exact number, like I said, but it has been an increase over the last couple of months where I see a good amount of enforcement relating to those things. However, I know that the law that they have with it's kind of tricky right now until they actually clear it up. Where are these guys going to get charged for certain parts of the guns? So the best way I can explain to you is a handgun is made of several different pieces themselves. A part of that gun will be legal. However, the next part of that gun will be illegal, which makes it the ghost gun. It could be the part of the gun that has a serial number, or just a basic part that doesn't have a serial number that they get off the internet or they made themselves. So the way that I understand that they look at it is that if it has one of those parts on it and it's not a total illegal gun, it's kind of hard to charge until they make that law clearer.
Yeah, thank you, Sergeant Osachek. Our former Lieutenant Segusio, he was telling us how it's so difficult to make arrests because the ghost guns were in pieces and parts, and until they were assembled, then possibly. But it's good to hear that there is, more arrests being made. So thank you again. And Sergeant Osachek, one team.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Freenius. A quick question, Sergeant Osachek, regarding the paid parking in the area. I know I was recently approached by media asking about it, and we're just learning about that right now. Are private businesses working with HPDs? Like, I think what I'm trying to figure out is there ticketing going on once paid parking is implemented in private businesses? And if so, does that fall under HPD?
No, there is no ticketing on our behalf. However, these private entities, kind of like the old airport police would give tickets and citations, is more like a civil summons or a civil thing. Whereas if you didn't take care of it, they would forward that ticket to a collection agency, and then that's how you would. That's how they would get around you not paying it. They would just let see, okay, is it going to affect your credit? or something like that. We won't ever enforce that on private property. Also, we won't enforce any kind of tolls on private property. So, for example, if all of Moana has several parking violations, or they got a system over there where they allow the public to pay to park due to a lot of people working in the area, and that time expires, and they call us, say, hey, this car's been parked 2 hours past its time. Can you guys tow it? We'll obviously say no. That's not within our realm because you guys are private property. That's up for you guys to take care of on your own.
Thank you, Sergeant Osachek. Board members, any other
I'm really glad
questions?
you brought that up. I'm sorry, can I address one more thing about that? That's become a trend. I'd like
Yes, go for it.
public to know. A lot of these paid parkings, there's been a lot of scams going on. Those where you do the QR codes with your phone and stuff like that. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about. They have the big sign. You take your phone and you can pay for parking in that manner, where you just scan the QR code on your phone, put your information in and stuff like that. What's been going on frequently and more recently is that people have been putting decals over that original QR code with their own QR code, and it links it to their site. So basically what you're doing is you're paying them instead of that parking people, and that's how they're making their money. And then sometimes if they're savvy enough, they're able to go ahead and get into your own bank account, start charging your card for fraud and stuff like that. This seems to happen on all public entities that do that. So what I suggest is if you ever see one of those, just touch that sign where that QR code is, because the QR code would be digitally imprinted into the metal sign, but these people are putting decals. So if it has like a decal over it, you can kind of tell it feels like a sticker edge. You know it's fake.
Thank you, Sergeant Osachek. Are there any particular areas in our neighborhood where that has been reported to be happening? Just so for our reference.
Yes, so we've had that happen in the Kiwalo Basin area by the boats where that pay for parking lot is at right there. I'm not sure if you enter it right when you enter the Kiwalo Basin. On the left-hand side, there's that public parking. Those have the QR codes on the side right there. So that's one of the recent places we've seen it happen. But that can also happen anywhere, like the big parking lots, like all of Moana Parking Center and stuff like that.
Okay, thank you, Sergeant. Member Farringer, are you ready to ask your question? Okay, so Sergeant Osachek, if you can check the chat, Member Farringer from our board had posed a question regarding the Lunalilo H1 entrance.
Drivers are crossing the solid line, exiting statistics and besides Department of Transportation, what do they do?
Wait, if we can have our neighborhood assistant read it, because I can't. Apologies.
Hi, Sergeant. Okay, the question from Member Farringer, it says, I have concerns from neighbors regarding Lunalilo H1 entrance and drivers crossing solid line. What are accident statistics and who besides the DPS should be contacted about adding plastic poles?
That would definitely be the Department of Transportation that you would call to install those things. That's actually a pretty good idea, I think. That area has always been a problem, especially people trying to cut in last minute to get on the freeway over those solid lines. What we've been doing recently, we just started last month, and we're going to be doing it next month, is we're going to do a little bit of enforcement out there for basically what we call projects. So this one's going to be a traffic enforcement projects. So the big thing over there is when people try to get over there, they block that freeway when they're turning left from Lunalilo onto the freeway by the post office, and it just jams up everybody else that's on the east side part of Lunalilo. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys, but they just jam up that intersection at that traffic light right there, try to turn left. And when everybody's got the right of way to go straight across, they can't because it's jammed up already. And then part of the reason it gets jammed is because everybody's trying to get onto that entrance to that freeway as well. But we do have projects upcoming to do some enforcement over there.
Okay, thank you, Sergeant. One more from Member Rice.
This is actually for Caroline. You might want to reach out to Councilman Nishimoto about this. I reached out to him about something else that I'll bring up when I have to do my district report, but he was
Okay.
very supportive and acted quickly. So Sophia Anderson from his office reach out to Councilmember Nishimoto's office or send an email with your concerns, and I believe they will be able to help you quickly.
Thank you, Member Rice, for that comment. Member Farringer, I hope it helps. And Sergeant Osterchuk, thank you for joining us this evening via Zoom.
Okay, good night.
Okay, moving on to presentations. We have Mr. Clint Kalaola, Parade Chair for the King Kamehameha Celebration Parade happening on June 14th. Thank you for being here in person.
Aloha, Clint Kalaola with the King Kamehameha Celebration Floral Parade. As part of our neighborhood awareness, I'm here today to let you guys know, June 14, 2025, we will be celebrating the 108th Annual King Kamehameha Celebration Floral Parade. As always, we start off at the Iolani Palace, the corner of King and Richard, at 9 a.m. We go straight down King Street, hang a right onto Punch Bowl, left onto Ala Moana Boulevard, straight down to Kalakaua, hang a right onto Kalakaua, and straight down to Kapiolani Park. Road closures in the area will start about 6 a.m. around the Channel Street, Aloha Tower Drive, as we prep for the contraflow lanes from the boats that comes in that day. But typically, the area will be most road closures in the area downtown will start around 8 o'clock as we start to bring up all our vehicles for staging onto King Street. Parade starts at 9. Road closures coming down Ala Moana and stuff, all the way down to Waikiki, will be in increments. As the parade approaches, the roads close. So it's not necessarily the roads will close at 9 a.m. straight down to Waikiki. As the parade approaches, HPD will shut down the roads ahead of them to give them a nice buffer for safety. Cross streets are always being relieved, such as Ward, Channel Street, I think is one of them, and then Ala Moana Boulevard, Atkinson area, maybe down towards Waikiki. Cross streets are always open. HPD will alleviate or relieve the traffic as it starts to build up. That is typically it. I mean, besides inviting you guys out, I mean, it's only been going on for 108 years, at least this year it is. Everybody's welcome to come out. Ala Moana is a good, nice, long stretch of wall that nice trees, shades along there to come and enjoy. Mahalo. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Kalaola. Board members, Member Davis.
Hi, thank you for being here. I'm excited to participate or to be able to watch. What would you estimate kind of the span based on how many participants you have for that road closure, like from start to finish? So, you know, pedestrians or any traffic, can we anticipate how much it's going to build up? Maybe on the conservative side.
So as you get into Waikiki, it takes a little bit longer. But if you're looking at the downtown area, once we start the parade, that area is typically open within an hour and a half. So between 10 and 10:30. I normally get all the participants on the road within an hour. So at 9 o'clock, by 10 o'clock, everybody's on the road. Once the last one vehicle leaves, we do have the street sweepers and HPD that comes by. That's going to be, you know, it really all depends on them, how quick the roads open behind us, depending on how quick the crowd moves. So once the crowd starts to disperse with HPD, you know, moving them off the side, street sweepers come by, HPD are opening roads behind them. But I would say typically once the parade starts, it's about an hour and a half that areas should be relieved and reopened.
Thank you. Any other board members? Member Freenius.
for being here and sharing with us. I mean, you're bringing back such fond memories of when I was a little kid watching, and I was more enthralled by the horse droppings afterwards. But anyhow, par for the course, will they be doing the King Kamehameha lei draping the day before as well?
Absolutely. King Kamehameha draping is on June 13th at Aliolani Hale in front of the statue. We start at 2 p.m. with everybody start to approach. The Royal Hawaiian Band kicks it off at 2:30, and then we start to go into protocol. We typically will be done about 5 p.m. Getting back to the parade, it's typical about maybe about 150 to 200 vehicles in the parade with about 5 floats, approximately 3 to 5 markers, and roughly about 100 horses that come out and participate.
Thank you. No other questions from the board member? Kala'ola, thank you for being here in person this evening.
Awesome. Thank you guys very much. Have a good night.
Okay, the time is now 6:35 p.m. and we were just talking about the Department of Transportation Services. So we have Mr. Kent Yang, Katie Collison, and Mr. Peter, and I apologize, I did not get your last name. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I am Kent Yang. I'm with the Department of Transportation Services. We are on the bus side. Here with me is Pete Garino, my coworker. And online, we have Eric Grover, who will be taking some good notes and questions with anyone that has some. Today, we have...
Excuse me, sir. Could you lower the mask so you
Oh,
can
yeah,
speak
sure.
clearly so people online can hear?
Yes,
Thank you.
yes. I apologize. I'm a little sick. So, yes. So I was saying, so tonight we have 2 presentations. One presentation will be on Title VI. We recently finished the draft of the 2025 Title VI program with public transit. I will be doing that. But before that, we have a very exciting presentation with Katie from PBR Hawaii, our consultant, that will be telling you of the proposed bus service updates that will be happening. As some of you may know, in October of this year, rail is opening. So we are proposing some major services changes and some really exciting news as well. Please welcome Katie for us.
Members for being here and online. As Kent said, my name is Katie Cullison. I'm a planner with PBR Hawaii. We're supporting the City and County of Honolulu's Department of Transportation Services with some of their outreach as they contemplate some bus route changes in alignment with the next phase opening of Skyline Rail. So I have a presentation that I'm going to go through rather quickly because there are a number of changes that we want to bring to the public's attention and request feedback on. So without further ado, before we begin the presentation, I just wanted to highlight that the purpose for making the bus route changes is to integrate the bus routes with Skyline. As Kent said, the next phase will be opening in October. And this phase will connect more people to employment centers. So now's the time to be thinking about how best to integrate bus routes into the Skyline opening of the next few phases. So I'll share information about the next series of stations to be open, bus routes that are under consideration for adjustments, and provide an email address at the end of the presentation where people can make comment or ask questions. This slide presentation includes all the routes that are proposed for change in case anyone who's watching is interested, whether they're from this neighborhood or not. I'll try to focus in a little bit on ones that might be of more interest to this community. The next slide and the following slide after that show the Skyline stations that have opened with phase 1 and the next series of openings, phase 2 in October. As you can see on this slide, the first phase opening terminates at Aloha Stadium Station. And then on the next slide, you'll see how Skyline is now extending to Middle Street, connecting more people to their jobs. Skyline hours will also be expanded with earlier starts and stop each day. You'll see that on the text part of this slide. And these changes are being made to accommodate rail extension, and bus hours are increasing to improve service for riders. The next slide, and you can move to the next one. This slide just covers some of the routes that were changed in March with the first opening of Skyline. In general, there's a little discussion next to the map, but in general, the routes were restructured to provide service to rail and Skyline, and one new route was added to get riders from Eva Beach to the UH West Oahu station. So that's just an overview of some of the changes that were restructured in March. And then on the next series of slides, I'll talk about the routes that are proposed for changes in October, starting October. This first image on the screen is kind of a diagrammatic graphic that shows how Skyline and bus routes can work together to make a more seamless network. Big picture, the A line is proposed to be truncated because it tends to run in Skyline, and new routes to both Waikiki and UH Manoa are proposed. So I think that's a part of this presentation that Kent was alluding to. And I'll go into more detail on all the route changes over the next slides. So this image on the next slide and the one after it are kind of before and after style. This slide shows the current A line. You can see that it extends all the way west to the Pearl Ridge station. And then on the next slide, you can see how the A line will terminate at Lagoon Drive. And then in the text on the slide here, you can see that the hours of services are expanding to run later into the evening, and there's no change in frequency to service. So that's the A-line truncation. Those two slides. And then the next set of slides show how a new W line is proposed to be added to replace Route 20. So W goes to Waikiki. First, you'll see on this slide, it's hard to see in this room. Hopefully for folks online, it might be easier to read, but the yellow, it's a dashed line, it looks green on my screen at work, represents the 20. And you can kind of see how there's some redundancy with Skyline Rail. So if you go to the next slide, you can see how the new W line is proposed to connect with Skyline at the airport. And you can see in the written text that the hours of service are expanding to add earlier morning service, but will still be running late into the night to serve people who work in Waikiki. There will also be greater frequency of service, as you can see in this table, giving more flexibility to riders as they're planning their commutes and trips. The slide after that just goes into a little more detail. For people that are familiar with Route 20, this might be of interest. It shows how the W line is proposed to make a slightly different loop near the airport. And then downtown, instead of passing through and looping through the downtown core, the new W route is proposed to travel on Nimitz Highway. So it's just a little more efficient route than passing through the central business district. It's the Route 20 that's proposed to be discontinued, and the new W line that's intended to be added. The next slide is exciting in that it's a new route that's proposed to run from Mapunapuna to UH Manoa on weekdays. So this route, as it's conceptualized, would allow anyone to catch Skyline from the west side and then hop on a limited stop bus to get them to campus. And the frequency is proposed to be every hour with extra trips during the AM and PM peak hours. So that may potentially be helpful to people that are commuting to UH Manoa. So then we can move to another slide, the next slide, which goes into some changes around the joint base Pearl Harbor Hickam. Route 303 is proposed to be discontinued with a new Route 331. On the first slide, you can see the dash lines, the yellow dash lines is the 303, which shows, you can see how it parallels Skyline and it has some redundancy there. That one's proposed to be discontinued. And then if you switch to the next slide, you can see the new proposed 331, which would have service in the Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam area and then connect with Skyline at Makalapa Station, and that would improve runtime for riders. The next slide shows a number of routes, the 40, 42, and 51, how they would be rerouted to the new Skyline Station at Lagoon Drive rather than further west at the stadium. So that's just a new transfer place for people to connect to Skyline for those routes. And then the slide notes that the Wahiawa Route 51 will also stop at Pearl Highlands. So it'll give people opportunity to stop at that location as well. I know I'm going really fast. This is the final route that's proposed for change on October 1st. And it's Route 46 that runs between Kapolei and UH West Oahu. What DTS is considering is just changing the route frequency. Currently, it's scheduled at an every 10-minute frequency, and they're proposing an every 15-minute frequency for that route. That's Route 46. So those are the routes that DTS is considering for changes as of October 1. They are thinking ahead to even future openings of Skyline and contemplating some other big changes that I just wanted to in advance. So if you could go to the next slide or the one after that, there's kind of a diagrammatic as the system is building. You can kind of see where this is going with bus routes feeding into Skyline and the whole system kind of working as a cohesive network for a more efficient ride for those of us who ride the bus. And for a couple of examples that DTS is considering, on the next slide, you'll see an idea with where the C line, this is the line that runs all the way through Waianae out to Makaha. This one could be changed to run to the UH West Oahu station, where riders could then get off the bus, get on Skyline, get above traffic, and finish their commute into town on Skyline. Another example of a proposed concept that's being considered for a future change is on the next slide, which is an E-line that could be adjusted from running to town, again, redundant potentially with Skyline, to make a Mauka to Makai service that would connect Wahiawa, Ewa Beach, and connecting everybody in between to Skyline. So that concludes the changes that are being considered for October 1st, and a couple more bonus to consider for future changes. DTS would like to hear from riders about the proposed changes, and you can email your comments or questions to the email address that's on the screen. I'm going to read it out if you're having any trouble seeing that. It's thebusstop@honolulu.gov. thebusstop@honolulu.gov. And please make your comments before July 15th of this year so that they can be incorporated and considered. Thank you so much. I'm going to hand it back to Kent.
Thank you, Katie. So just before you guys have your questions ready, let me do my presentation. This one is on Title VI. It's similar to happening, but this was done in the past. So this program was collected from 2022 to present, at least the first half of 2025, and it's done every 3 years. So again, my name is Kent. I'm with the Transportation Mobility Division of DTS. And I'm here to inform the public of the draft that we're going to be submitting to City Council And then once it be officialized, it will have a record of everything done within the last 3 years. Slide 2, please. Oh, slide, yeah, there we go. So Title VI legislation prohibits discrimination against race, color, and national origin. So as a recipient of federal grant funds, DTS is required to do this program every 3 years to keep receiving funds and to demonstrate that public transit services are provided in a non-discriminatory manner without regard to race, color, and national origin. It's an ongoing process, and then we aim to continually build upon existing policies, procedures, and standards, and always keep up to date that everything is equitable. Next slide, please. So the content of the Title VI program is procedures for filing, receiving, and addressing Title VI discrimination. Any complaints are in there too. Public participation plans and processes, language services for limited English proficient persons or LEP languages. Currently that we have surveyed are Tagalog, Ilocano, Filipino, Japanese, Chinese, and Chuukese, which is a form of Micronesian. And we did this survey back in 2021 to 2022. In addition, other contents of this program considered facility site locations and also demographic data, major service changes and fare changes, policies, and an evaluation of all our routes of the bus. Next slide, please. Okay, and here you go is a map of all the minorities and low-income groups on the island of Oahu. Now, Oahu, or Hawaii in general, is very special because we are majority minority. So the data collected by the U.S. Census, the U.S. Census Bureau, gives us all the data, and then it's interpreted in a methodology that is quite different from what they do in the mainland. So they use what's called settlement patterns. And it's not necessarily taking like the specific racial makeup of each census block, but a general perspective of like how people settled in these areas. And low income, in a way, is also, the data is also collected in a manner. But generally, one could think that if you're low income housing, normally those areas would be considered a low income area. Okay, next slide, please. Slide down. There you go. Okay, and then some program findings. In addition, we have a vehicle load, which is the level of crowding on our buses, vehicle headway, which is the frequency of when buses are coming to the bus stops, on-time performance, whether the bus is on time, and service availability, that is the bus route is within a half-mile radius for 80% of the population. And I can gladly say that we are, for all minorities, equity, income, low-income groups, 99% have a bus route in their area. Okay, and then amenity distribution, benches, and a bus stop shelter. Every area will be considered of having them within the bus system. Vehicle assignments, and that's basically the age and type of vehicle that we use. And generally our buses are around 11 to 12 years old, and they're all dependent on the type of route. Next slide, please. So we're still in the comment period from March to April. Deadline for written comments would be May 1st. We're going to submit this to FTA around June 1st, 2025. I left a copy for the neighborhood board here in the front. Please feel free to look through it. And if you have any comments, go through your chair or your neighborhood board assistant, email us comments. Otherwise, next slide, please. Those are my information. Feel free to contact me there. If you have any more questions, email me. And now we are ready to take questions for both Katie's presentation and mine.
Thank you, Ms. Carlson and Mr. Yang. Presentation this evening. Board members, question.
Yeah, thank you. I have several questions for you. One, how did you get the data to, as far as ridership, to discontinue bus routes?
Sorry. So the data is collected through our buses. So every time a person gets on the bus, it reads every passenger. So with that, we can have data collected for every passenger for every route. Also, our bus stops. Every bus stops that the bus stops at also reads how many people use that bus stop.
Okay, where can I see that data?
Yes, it's actually public. It's online. You can go to the busstop.org. And then all you need to know is the HEA number of that bus stop, and you can look up how many people use that bus stop.
Okay, because I'm looking at some of the routes, you say, great, this is great. But for riders, I ride the bus. I drive a car, but I also ride the bus. And I ride the bus because it's not only convenient, but it's more economical in this day and age. So as you discontinue some of these routes and then you're adding newer routes with less stops, you're affecting many families and riderships. Sure, you're aware of that, but I would like to know what data do you have to take a look at that? Because the disingenuine that you're doing for riders affects their livelihood. Besides, there's a lot of seniors that can't drive. So they depend on either handy van or they ride the bus. They go grocery shopping, they go to see their grandkids, they go to doctor's appointments, so on and so forth. If I take away some of these routes, you're really putting them at a disadvantage, these routes that you're discontinuing. Because I understand what you're doing for the rail, but it appears that the data and the decision that's being made is not adequately reflecting on what the public needs and wants. Next question. If you discontinue these routes, are you going to add additional handy van buses and vans to accommodate those ADA personnel that depends on the bus so that they can do these things that's necessary so they can have daily comforts of life? Because right now, there's a shortage of handy vans. Because there's a shortage of handy vans, there's also, increase in ridership. So they depend on the bus. You see what I'm getting at? Lastly, on these dates, you're putting it 1 October, right? But what type of public hearing have you put out so that the public can come in and see these changes and also give a really good assessment of the impact that's going to take place? Because the ridership discontinuance or these new routes, it doesn't seem like it's passing the common sense test, and it's going to have a really big impact on the ridership. And I think if you have public hearings, you're going to hear from the public that you really shouldn't be doing some of these discontinuance to the routes unless you have other accommodations for them. Because the routes that you have right now that's looking as proposed, because I've ridden some of these routes, and it's very highly populated. I don't know if you've ridden the routes. I would suggest you ride the routes. Take these routes, peak periods, but also in between, and you'll see the ridership and what people use these routes for. So could you respond to that, please?
Yes, sir, certainly. So we understand your concern with the disenfranchised, especially like seniors, those who depend on the bus. Those are our number one priority. So the first thing we do is we look at the route entirely. Okay, so we look at the route entirely. So if we had to discontinue a route, we have to make sure they have an alternative route. And also we look at the route that if we are discontinuing, how does it serve the rider? And what is the ridership there? If it's not doing that, if the ridership is not great, we have to look at other means of doing so. So we don't just discontinue a route because it just doesn't make sense for us. The rider is a priority. So with the data that we collect, and we do ride the routes. So before, like my staff, we do this kind of stuff. We actually ride this route. And we also have people from OTS, the bus, like analyze it themselves before we discontinue or consider changing it. And your other question was, what was the handy van? Yes. So you are correct, but it's a different service. So that by them they have to prearrange it.
Well,
Yes.
Member Rice, if you can be on the mic so we can
sorry.
hear you.
Yes,
Sorry.
ma'am.
One other point that Member Mariano noted is educating the public and
Yes.
giving the public opportunity to provide input, which you're doing now. But have you done any of this prior to this presentation?
Yes, ma'am. So prior to this, for other changes, we have always done a survey. We've printed different surveys on different bus stops because we want to see riders who use these bus stops.
what's the data? How many surveys you put out and how many did you get back?
How many surveys do we put? It depends which changes we're
No,
doing.
you said you put out surveys. How many did you put out and what was the response? 1,000, 10,000, 500, 20. What is that number? Do you know that?
Well, right. On the top of my head, I do not have the number. We can always go back. We have it all logged, but it also depends on what changes we're doing. But we will go to every bus stop to make sure that there's a survey ready for someone to take it.
Okay, you mentioned about kapunas.
Mhm.
So here's a question, a way of asking it. What is the purpose of making the change? Is that your intent that by making these changes, canceling some, adding new, particularly with these non-stops? Are you expecting an increase in ridership? And if you are, how are you getting that data? Because right now, if the current route doesn't have that ridership number that you're canceling, how is this change going to make a difference? And that's the common sense question that I'm trying to get at, because it seems like this is a Russian judgment. And I think that, Madam Chair, we really should look at this because it has a really big impact on not just this community, but the other communities as well.
Thank
So-
you, Member Mariano.
Yeah, I'd just like to add, first of all, I very much appreciate the question. It's spot on. With respect to what we're doing as part of Skyline opening, because I'm a little bit confused as to whether your questions are related to the presentation on Title VI or on Skyline, and specifically the Skyline stuff.
Title VI is just,
Okay.
it's a standard kind of thing that's done every 2 years,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
This has an impact on lifestyle,
Yes.
okay? It affects ADA, it affects kapunas.
So with respect to what we're doing, what we're proposing as part of Skyline, number one, in terms of public hearing, this is actually the first of, how many, we have 12 different neighborhood boards that we're going to, so that we're doing that over the next month. And this is just to get the initial impact. There'll be a second round of public meetings at neighborhood boards if we're allowed on the agenda, again, to provide an overview of what we heard from the community at all those meetings, what we got from the online responses, and what our final decision would be, what we were going to do for October 1st. So everything that you saw there is just a proposal. It is not written in stone. So that's
Yes, that's true, but this proposal that you're giving, you got 5 months from today for October 1st.
yes.
And I pretty guarantee that this is sort of look like a rubber stamp, that 1 October is going to pass and there's going to be some change and there's going to be some impact. So why wasn't this brought up earlier? Because like they did about 6 months ago, they changed other routes. And I'm not sure if you're well aware of, but I'm very attuned to people that's handicapped, hearing and visual, because they have to learn their routes. And if you change, just like changing a crosswalk, for us, it's not an issue. For them, it's a big
No, it's a
issue.
big issue. Absolutely. And even types of vehicles that we purchase, it's a big issue. The step-in height's too high or that kind of stuff. So it all is something we look at and take comment on. The changes that were made in the past are actually in the Title VI review that happened. So we did, when we went out for the March, also had public hearings that we went through, or public meetings such as this that we went through. I think, though, the bigger issue is, and we may have gone a little fast through that in the slide, but we're actually adding service net with the March change, the change here, and the changes that we're proposing, looking at cutting service when Skyline opens, but actually expanding service by 3%. So, and the routes that are being terminated, maybe terminated is proposed to be terminated, are really just, we're replacing, changing the name, for example. So like the 20 becomes the W, but for the most part, that route is pretty much the same as what the old 20 provided when you consider the Skyline service as well. So it's, I appreciate your comments, and we'll certainly take those into heart. We do have to put a balance, though, in terms of, you know, getting folks, having to stop on every corner, which slows everybody down on the bus, or having limited stops, which gets people to their destinations faster. That is always a challenge for every transit agency in the country, and it's a balance issue. And that's one that we, you know, looking for your feedback and trying to address. In terms of the data that we run, the different, all the different proposals that we come up with, we run them through what's called our travel demand forecast model, or TDFM. To look at them, we get that data from what Ken mentioned, which is all the every time you get on a bus, we count, right? So, and we have also data on the patterns from the holo card when people get on one bus and transfer to another. So we know where those patterns are going. And we run it through models that we try and predict if we make this change. If we speed up the bus, we'll have a net positive impact. In general, and I've worked at several transit agencies across the country, the Honolulu Transit Agency, there's only one urbanized area that has better utilization for seats, and that's New York. We have the second highest seat utilization of any transit agency in the country. So, and that comes from a lot of work on the part of DTS and OTS to constantly be change the routes to try and maximize the number of people that we get on the bus and now on the rail. So appreciate your feedback. Like to, any comments like that, most welcome.
Thank you. Real quick, I do have a question as well. Piggybacking off of what Member Mariano was saying, some of the routes are already effective. So I'm going to take the Sea Line as an example. I just took that this morning. And so cutting it off, for example, where like Ever Villages is, and I understand that, you know, the definition of service is having more availability, but I think if you cut off a certain stop, then it is a disservice to how the original route was. So kind of going, I'm just going to go specifically on this because I feel like it affects the other routes as well. There was a route that was switched over from going through Beretania through Nimitz, which also makes me think, right? A lot of people do work in the downtown area. I'm not too sure about Nimitz, and I'm not sure what the data says, but specifically the Sea Line as an example. If someone were on the west side, they could take that straight into downtown because it stops at Ala Moana. But this model right here makes whoever takes the bus stop at the Skyline. And while I understand that the Skyline is supposed to be more convenient, the Skyline stops at Kalihi. So that kind of cuts off the whole street thing. So that's just, I think that's what we're questioning, is that how efficient are these cuts? And again, switching routes from like a bus to Skyline, it adds extra wait time. I'm unsure what the frequency is for Skyline, but you know, it also, if you get off one bus and then get on another, you're not guaranteed a seat too. So that's a little bit challenging for people who, you know, may not be able to stand for long amounts of time. Like I know I'm not going to be youngish forever. So it would kind of suck to just kind of, you know, get on the Skyline and find seats. But I also understand that we are trying to garner more ridership with Skyline. So there are a lot of questions that the route changes are being brought up right now. I just wanted to point that out. And I know some of them are going to kind of go through individual examples as well, if you're okay with listening to that. And I hope you're able to back that we are giving and go off of that. And another concern is that these are proposed. We understand that it's fairly malleable, but at the same time, from what I've seen on this board, anytime something is proposed, it kind of goes through. So that's where our concern stands, because we understand that we are an advisory board. We do have a voice, but we don't really get. So our decision-making power is a little bit limited, but we are community members that are like letting you folks know. So if I can just go over some examples, and then if you can consolidate your answer, because I know you have one, I can see it. Thank you. Member Rice, and then Member Davis.
Thank you. To Member Mariano's point about the surveys, Brent, how do you the surveys? Is there a human being there talking to the riders, or is it a piece of paper that's given to them and hope you get a response? How is that conducted? Because that's really valuable information, obviously, to help you make the right decisions.
Yeah, so we do it in two ways. So one in-person one is that we hand out flyers with what the proposed changes are on the bus. So the people who take this route can see what's happening. They can ask questions with a real person. Normally it's someone from my staff. If not, the surveys will be available on a link. We use what's called SurveyMonkey or Google Forms. People will just like use their phones. And I know a lot of like Kapuna aren't familiar with that too. So there's a number, you can always call us if you have concerns, talk to us directly.
Thank you. Holo card.
Yes.
Is there a way, I've bus, forgive me, here in New York I have, because that's where I grew up. But is there a way through the Holo card, when a person purchases a Holo card, is there information on that person that you have? So then you can reach out to that person to get them, like a blast email or something like that, or a phone call survey, or somehow, or a mailed piece of paper survey. So somehow you're getting that person, because like you pointed out, the Kapuna, they're not, all that savvy with technology. Neither am I, but I try really hard.
Yeah, the Holo card collects a lot of information. So it has a phone number on there, but it's a separate from us. We have a contractor with that does that. So they collect a lot of data. And with that data, it does go to OTS. And with that information, it does help us with our decision making.
Not necessarily decision making, but getting feedback, the survey. Is there a way for you to use that information to reach out to the owner of the Holo card so they can provide feedback through the survey for information that you're looking for?
Right, as of now, no, but that's a good suggestion, ma'am. So we'll definitely note that down. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Davis, and then Member Vanderbrink, and then we'll move on, because you did provide us. Oh, and Member Chang, and then we'll move on, and thank you for providing your contact info. So go ahead, Member Davis.
Just quick, because it's on my mind. I think people might, if they opt into receiving like emails, but if people don't want their email shared, they probably can't share the data. Couple questions, I think all in relation to this, and first one is kind of in relation to what Chair Lee said is, I think sometimes we're looking at efficiency of the stops and the transport and how much we can get people service, but not the efficiency for people. The lines are really efficient in that everything is still connected, but like Chair Lee said, now someone who got on one bus has to make 2 transfers and use 3 different lines in order to get to the same location. And so it's kind of that balance between efficiency for the service and efficiency for the person that I think is the trade-off here, that we are just hoping, to be considered. The second thing, and I'm just noticing it, is in the W line, both kind of the in and the out, or the 2 lines that I see going along Nimitz Highway, the big change being that it cuts off kind of a larger spread of service to the downtown area. I'm assuming that this is not all of the bus lines, that there are other bus lines that might still connect into downtown areas and provide service. So I guess my main question, or just curious data point, is there kind of a ratio or a general norm of how far someone might have to walk from a public bus station in order to provide service to the majority of our city, or the majority of places that people might live, work, play, thrive, etc., which is really what we're concerned about. That's my second one. And my third question, sorry to just loop them all together, but considering the Holo card, it is a secondary service. I know that covers the bus right now, and it's I guess, an admittance that I need to ride the bus and the Skyline more often. But will this now require people to purchase a card or a monthly pass for the Skyline and also bus services? So what's the cost difference for people that are now, again, needing to use two different services, or is it combined within one? Okay. My board members know more than I do on that, so you can ignore that one. But just some comments and yeah, curious questions about, some of those finer data points that might, impact people and their ability to access services.
We'll do the questions and then we can round up your response because I feel like your response may be along the same lines of addressing our concerns. Yes. Okay, Member Vanderbrink and then Member
I
Kang.
think I have a question that would probably solve a lot of these questions.
Member Chang.
Because we're talking around the same thing. So I don't know if I have the right answer to it, but even though you're taking away that particular line, there are other lines that run under that, right? So even if you take that away, there's other bus lines that run that line. What you're basically cutting out is those big blank areas where people are not going to be getting off the bus. For example, like, I used to ride the bus from Wahiawa into town, and that's easily an hour plus. And if I can cut that in half by dropping down and getting into the Pearl City area and then getting the Skyline and shooting straight to downtown, that might be worth it for me. But let's say I need to go someplace in between and I get off there. There are still other bus lines that are running in parallel to what that line would have run. So even if you have to get off and you've got to go someplace else along that line, there's still transportation you can take. Yeah, you got to stop and get onto another bus. But it doesn't mean that whole line, even though that particular part of the line is gone, there are other buses that will run that line. So it doesn't mean that there's no coverage. It just means that particular line is going to stop here, but there are other buses that you can take. So am I that? Okay. Hopefully that will stop. No, my suggestion is when you do this presentation, even though you're showing you're cutting off a line, show that there are other lines that will cover it so that you don't end up with us going like, wait a minute, you're cutting off the line? How am I going to get from here to there? There will be other buses that you can take. So that's my suggestion to you. Thank you.
And then Member Vanderbrink.
So thank you for presenting this. For me personally, I'm a full-time bus rider. I don't own a car, and I've ridden the rail about 3 to 4 times from end to end. And I do enjoy it, and I think its biggest flaw right now is it doesn't go enough places to make it really viable. In looking at these changes, it looks like a lot of them are to basically kind of force people to the rail. They're truncating routes so you can no longer go from Eva to downtown in one route. You take one bus to the rail, you transfer to the rail to one end to Lagoon Drive, then you transfer to the A bus to go into the downtown area. So my question is, for if someone doesn't have a monthly pass, how much does that cost to go into town and then go back home if you're working 5 days a week in the downtown area?
It's the same price, whether you're on 3 different vehicles or one. So once you tap on with on a bus, the system automatically knows once you get on rail that you don't have to pay an increment more. So it's the same price. It's a seamless from a fare collection standpoint.
Okay, that's good to know. And also looking at this from my experience with the bus, it looks like there's only going to be 2 bus routes that would go from the west side to the downtown area, the 40 and the 42. Am I correct in that?
There's actually more bus routes than
Once
that.
these changes.
Yeah, there's lots of bus routes. There's the 40. There's a bunch of other buses and means of getting there, either one seat ride or with multiple rides.
From Kapolei to the downtown area?
Yeah.
Okay, because I don't know that many to be sure, but I know several of them, like the A, the C, the E. You're limiting the amount of routes there, and I guess that alleviates some of my concern if they're still having sufficient routes from Kapolei and the Eva side to the downtown, because if anything happened to the rail where it had to shut down, people would be flooding the bus to go from either side to the other. So that is helpful. My other concern, though, is people with mobility issues, kind of to what I said in relation to the fares. People that do have mobility issues, like an Eva side to the downtown, you are making them transfer to the rail, transfer to the bus, especially people in wheelchairs. That is a lot of stress on them. Is there any alternative for someone that is in a wheelchair or has mobility issues besides doing the hopping from bus rail to bus to get into downtown?
Yeah, there's still, for example, on the C route, there's still the 40 that you can take that we would, we're not proposing making changes to the 40 that would truncate that. That would still provide a one-seat ride to the downtown.
So those with mobility issues can still take a whole bus route to.
Correct. And by the way, Skyline is fully accessible, so that it's,
But it is accessible. I think my concern is the transferring all in between that, because that could be
Understood.
really
Yeah.
cause stress.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess not so much a question, but I do like here that you are extending the time frame of the rail as well, because one of the biggest challenges is that currently it ends at like 6 to 7 o'clock, which is someone works until 6 o'clock. They have to rush to the rail. So I do like it's extending to 10 to 11 o'clock to make it more accessible for them. Yeah, I think that's all my questions.
Thank you, Member Vanderbrink. Member Fariñez?
Quickly, I resonate with everything that all the previous board members have mentioned. Just quickly, are there going to be any PSAs, notifying the riders of the proposed changes should it come to fruition? And more importantly, as Member Chang said, to get buy-in from the riders. Okay, you're going to take something away, and of course you're installing something else in its place, but make it as easy and seamless of a transition for the riders in terms of, hey, this used to be your route from A to B, but now we're taking something out, but route that may be of even or your routing of where you go. Again, I'm just saying, in terms of wanting to get the buy-in from the general public, inform us, let us feel like we're the process, and also simplify it for us so it becomes, so easy to don't want to say the buy-in to the proposed ideas. And is October 1st a hard and fast date? That's
the mayor has said we're
The mayor has said-
mid-rail on October 1st.
And I know I had asked you earlier that these proposed changes are not yet on your website. So when is there an estimated time that all these changes are going to be on your website so it is accessible?
This deck should be up there this week.
Okay, thank you.
And yes, it will be the full public outreach of notifying for service changes.
If you have any final comments, but again, we do value your presence here today to be able to answer our questions in person. And we also know that you've done more research than we have. So there must be some reason to this. And I understand that, again, you didn't just cut off routes for like no reason, but we appreciate you being here and taking in a public input. So if you want to wrap up with.
Yeah, sure. Let me just, again, thank you for the opportunity to come today. You'll be pleased to know that a lot of the discussion we've had here is the exact same discussion we've had around the table when we sat at DTS and with our colleagues at OTS. You'll also, one of the things we looked at, we were actually at one point contemplating doing the C and E changes for October 1st. And we said, you know what? Let's get the downtown right first, right? Let's make sure those connections are up and viable. Let's look at kind of two bites at the apple. One, this time, you don't hide the fact of what we're trying to do with C&E in the future. Let's put it out with this round of public engagement and getting input. But we'll be doing that again on a second round. So then when we actually go and do, if we end up doing those C&E changes. And the overall philosophy, again, exact same discussion here, is like we're trading off a more reliable, less subject to H1 traffic ride on Skyline with a 3-seat ride or a 2-seat ride, whatever that happens to be. And we're looking at the reliability of that route, but we're also looking at reinvesting when we're truncating a route, say the C, we're proposing to add more frequency to it. So yes, there's a transfer time, but your original bus stop, you're waiting less at the bus stop on the Waianae coast to get to Skyline because the bus comes more frequently. So that's the balancing that we're looking to do. And same balance that we're looking at, well, we could have X number of stops, we could have 40 stops on the C, or we could do, fewer stops to increase the trip time. So the exact same discussion we're having internally. So please give us your feedback, and it's much appreciated to see whether we're on the right track or we need to readjust.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you again for being.
Madam Chair, just one more,
Go ahead, Member Mariano.
because I'm kind of looking at this from a holistic standpoint. So you said that the whole intent is to get people to ride the rail. The
The transit service.
Yes.
Right, transit in general, right?
Okay,
Not just the rail.
but, so my question earlier was, because you said you're not working closely with Handyvan. And I think from a holistic standpoint, if you're making these changes, we have to be cognizant of that population that have mobility issues or walking or riding to increase. So if you're going to take away some, maybe add more handy van services so you can help that population that depend on the bus now, that they're not inconvenienced.
Yes, absolutely. We're looking at that. We continue to look at that. In fact, there was we did some research to see, should we have the handy van drop folks off at the rail? And the conclusion was, that was probably not a good
It's
idea.
not a good idea because the elevators
And the
and,
one seat ride is just better. So we were like, you know what, don't push too far, right? We want to leverage the bus system to improve rail and vice versa, so that overall transit ridership goes up. But at the same time, we don't want to, hard force transfers and make, and discourage people from using transit. That's 180 degrees from what we want to do.
I'm sorry, one real last question. You're doing all of this, I'm assuming, for two things, efficiency and cost savings?
No, we're doing this actually to increase ridership.
Okay, just
So
so
we're increasing bus service as we bring on the rail.
okay, so it's not about money, it's just increasing ridership.
We want to make sure that every dollar of transit operating subsidy we get moves the most number of people.
All right.
Thank you, Member Chang and Member Mariano. And thank you, DTS and PBR Hawaii, for being here this evening. Okay, moving on. I'm unsure if they're here, but we have Office of Hawaiian Affairs on our agenda who requested to be on our agenda. Is anyone here from OHA? Okay, let's move on. The time is now 7:26. Board business. Approval of the March 25th, 2025 meeting minutes. Does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns about our meeting minutes from last month? Member Farinas? Okay, Member Farinas is requesting a correction on a typo, spelling of Kiamoko. Any other corrections, comments on the March 25th meeting minutes? Okay. Okay. Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you, board. Meeting minutes have been approved. 4.2, Action Committee Report with our Action Committee Chair, Emma Davis.
All right, I'm very energetic tonight. Thanks for noticing. I'm going to try and get through this as quickly and concisely as I can, because there is a lot from the last meeting, and mostly want to get or collect a little bit of input as well in making a firm commitment to move forward with kind of an action committee plan. So kind of two big things to talk about. The first one being dogs in our parks. And I'm expanding that to say in our parks and not just Ala Moana District Park, because of the update that we received from the Department of Parks and Recreation as well. So the beginning of that meeting, we were really focusing on, always comes back to what are we able to do, potentially resolution. And I think the question started to emerge of, are we at the point where we actually have a firm idea of what we want to recommend? And we didn't have a firm answer on that. So it comes back to what information do we need to collect to better understand kind of public opinion? How might we collect it, both by method and communication of that, similar to how our, the Department of Transportation collecting and sharing of their surveys. So we talked about sending out a survey, having a QR code and a link. Also potentially people in person around our parks to collect information, and always sending people back to the neighborhood commission office as well, so that they can submit testimony, freely without even having to answer a specific survey. With that said, now that that conversation was mostly focused on, again, Ala Moana, the Director Thielen from the Department of Parks and Recreation shared a letter with us. Main overview is that they are sharing a list of both parks that don't allow dogs at all and parks in our neighborhood that are providing access for dogs in some way. Mother Waldron Park, both on and off leash enclosure. Not Kewalos. Kaka'ako Waterfront Park, but not the Gateway Park, neither Mauka or Makai. And then the other one is, yes, Kauai the Mini Park. Is that the new one? Yeah, no, because that's CJ. The new one is, yes, Kolawalo. So a couple of parks. Anywho, they are asking for us to collect information. So I think that can become part of a survey that we send out, in that they're asking us for our feedback both. I know that all board members will probably have conversations with individual constituents, but I am recommending that we still prepare a survey that might enable us to capture a larger audience in terms of their recommendations or thoughts on the matter. Proposing 3 sections. The first one, we came up with a yes or no question to really survey awareness of Hawaii leash laws, noticing that there may be some confusion there. That also allows us to kind of better understand public education and what we might want to educate our community members about. The second section, input on the parks, which is what the Department of Parks and Recreation is asking us for, sharing the current plan and asking community members to rank their preference maybe for parks so that we get, yes, I agree with those. I think a multi-select option is probably the easiest way to collect that. They could then add a park if they feel like it should be included, or take, off a park that is currently being included. Variety. The third part being Ala Moana, mostly because Department of Parks and Recreation is planning to have further conversation regarding Ala Moana District Park, but it will be separate from the current update. We talked in the action committee on the survey there, including awareness about the current dog laws at Ala Moana District Park, them being able to respond if they believe that dogs should be allowed off leash, on leash, or not allowed at all, and then where within the park they might be allowed. Everywhere, including beaches and water, only within the green space, only within a predetermined walking path, only within an enclosure, or not at all. So it kind of provides all the options where people can give us hopefully the best combination, what they are feeling is best for their opinion, including additional comments. Open to input from the board. Otherwise, that's kind of the survey I'm going to create. I'm hoping to share it with the board at least by the next, or we can start sharing it if everyone's kind of in agreement, but open to any comments before I continue with the second thing about what people think about how we might collect it.
Okay.
Good, Member Chang.
I think that's a really good idea about the survey. My thinking is one efficient way to get the survey out to people is if we can get a list of the condos in the area and send it to their board and see if they can have their residents do that survey and send it back to us. And I think that'd be the fastest way to get a lot of responses. So that would be my suggestion.
Thank you, Member Chang. Member Rice.
I was so excited to receive this letter from Director Thielen, because everybody knows how I feel about dogs and parks. I've already spoken where my condo building general manager, and in Ward Village, all the GMs of the condos, the Howard Hughes buildings and some of the individual buildings, they're very proactive together. So I was speaking with my GM and this morning and said, what do you think about, we can prepare the survey, but I think it needs to be a little more intimate to the residential community of each building. I think we'll get better feedback. And he agreed. So 2 things that I'm willing to help facilitate, and plus whatever else you'd like me to facilitate, is one, is create, have all the general managers in the Ward Village area, they all meet once a month for lunch. So I'll find out when they're meeting and will attend, hopefully they'll allow me to attend the meeting, which they usually do. And, talk about why I'm there and that we need to have a survey. And then ask each of the GMs to host a residential meeting in their respective condo or provide a survey that will provide them and have the residents fill it out, completed, whether it's online or on a piece of paper, and bring it back, and then we could, consolidate it all. And he really liked that idea because in our neck of the woods, I mean, like we've talked about many, many times, Howard Hughes is building this live, work, play community with all these new condos. There are 8 done or almost done already and 8 more to come. And they want dogs. So, but there's no place for the dogs to go except for that teeny weeny little new Kolowalu dog park. So I'm on board. And I think everybody else is. So I think that's a really good way to facilitate and get the survey done.
Thank you, Member Rice. Any other board members? Okay, Member Davis?
Just to overview, I'm thinking we can create a survey. We can start sharing that digitally and then prepare even a written one and or another version to share with condo owners, or at least a link to that direct survey. Everyone?
Member Mariano?
Yeah, just mentioned, I attended last meeting. It was really well run. I attended as a resident. So I just want to be clear. So this board in the past had talked about putting a dog in the park. So it's not an open park where, you won't get much favor. But if there's a dog park enclosed on Alamo Park, I think it'll be more advantageous. One on the side and one on the Diamond Head side, because then you can have both populations and you don't have 10,000 people merging on one little dog park in the park.
Agreed. One of the where questions will be within a constructed, fully enclosed area. So that'll kind of cover, if people are sharing that they don't believe dogs should be off leash or free within the park, within a closed, an enclosure will be. Yes, those are fun. All right. Input on that. The second thing, I know it's a little bit longer today, but I did I guess 2 things. One of those things is newsletter. We've talked about that a couple times. I think this and the sharing of the survey could be in it. I think filling out a newsletter every month can be a little bit of a daunting task, especially if I'm doing it alone. What I am asking is that if there's anything that board members feel could be shared, I'm willing to put it together. But if anybody's willing to create their own announcement, preferably under 250 characters, that would be helpful because then I can format everything, but I'm not writing every piece of copy, which tends to take a little bit more. So if anybody has anything, sharing it with me, including, what, where, when, and a call to action, if there is one, would be really helpful for making sure that I can put those things together. And then finally, there also was a really good conversation on undeveloped land within our neighborhood and existing permits, what's happening with them. They've been around for 10 plus years. Are they just staying like that? And so I'm going to pass it over to Dale for a moment because he brought this up and I think can speak a little bit more detailed on it to the rest of the board.
Go ahead, Member Vandenbrink.
Thank you. Before I get into that, I just want to mention, I understand the director's letter mentioned about not to discuss the dogs at Moana Beach Park, but I do think it's important that we do include that in the survey and that is part of the discussion, even if nothing moves forward, just so we get the residents' feelings on that. But yeah, to move on to unutilized lands in our neighborhood, I did bring that up because like she was saying, there are a lot of them that have been vacant for maybe 10 years, that are undeveloped and unutilized. And we kind of talked about researching them, reaching out to developers to try and find out more about what the process is with that land right now. And that is something that I'm also kind of doing on my personal time, maybe between the meetings. I researched the empty lot on the corner of Atkinson and Kapiolani, where the Mandarin was supposed to be built. And that's something I brought up where they presented to us in a meeting in, I believe it was May 2015. saying that there's a proposed building that's supposed to be completed in 2019, and it's still an empty lot with no construction on it right now. So that is definitely something that we want to pursue, and looking at other vacant lots and other empty pieces of land to find out what's happening with them. And one of the things that we talked about was a way to incentivize the owners of that land in order to utilize it. If they don't build something on it, then maybe host an event on it, maybe open it up. So having like a farmer's of situation on it, or any type of reaching out to homeless people to try and get them care and services by utilizing that land so they can set up medical tents or other services on it. And I know it was brought up, I believe I did as well, maybe open up for parking as well. I know that was not something that was received as well, but especially in like the Makoli Mo'ilili area, there's a lack of parking. So I want to make sure that was included. And as terms of the encouragement of getting property owners to open up that land, we talked about maybe a property tax surcharge that could be utilized. So that way it could only the state or the city could levy it. It could get money. So that way they can actually buy up the land and build affordable housing, but also encourage these property owners to actually utilize the land and not just hold on to it for a decade and then sell it for a profit later. That's all I have.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Member Vandenbrink. Member Davis.
I'll just quickly add on to that. I think, kind of mimicking the empty homes tax, a similar thing for, these properties that have not been developed, and that's kind of an extension question to our representatives here, an idea or maybe a resolution we might consider, sharing that maybe a property tax, because there isn't a huge one, which doesn't incentivize people to build, but levying one on empty property that's going unused or is attracting graffiti or, those types of things do tend to happen around emptier lots. And again, being able to avoid a tax by providing a community service or a community area while they're still developing their plans, et cetera. So it doesn't go unutilized. So that was kind of a full conversation about that, and something we might, as a board, consider proposing or open to thoughts on the possibility of sharing that upward.
Thank you, Member Davis, for that report. Moving on to attendance at other meetings. Don't have anything to report. Member Frenas.
Just wanted to.
Sorry. But we'll have you under community concerns if that's okay. We'll have you speak under community concerns. So we'll go over this and then we'll have you up. Thank you, Michelle. Go ahead, Member Frenas.
Just wanted to commend the Hawaii State LGBT Plus Commission for their first ever Queer Day at the Capitol, which is last Thursday. And what was so exciting about this was having all these local organizations, businesses, and Hawaii State departments there showcasing their services and resources that support this particular community and their families. Now, this commission works to identify and address the needs of the LGBTQIA plus communities across the state by advising policy makers and advocating inclusive policies that promote equity and justice. So thank you for that inaugural Queer Day at the Capitol. Woohoo!
Thank you, Member Vandenbrink.
I just want to add on, I want to thank our representatives, including Representative Iwamoto, who's here, who actually attended the event. We had Representative Old and Representative Tam, who are also there, as well as the Lieutenant Governor. I do wish our governor could have came downstairs to attend it as well, but I was glad to see many representatives from our neighborhood who were there.
Thank you, Member Vandenbrink. Okay, moving on. Testimony from James Geishan. So Mr. Geishan had actually brought up his community concern a meeting or two ago, and it's regarding criminal prosecution. I know he's an owner of Sugar Hawaii, and he sent us a testimony. I think our neighborhood assistant did circulate that letter. Just wanted to put that on our radar if you want to talk about it or pass a resolution, or if anyone had any comments about his letter. If we're unable to review it, we can put it back on the agenda. It would be nice to have him, but he's actually out of the country right now. So it would be great for him to come and talk as a business owner that lives in the area. Member Rice.
I appreciated his letter because, as most of you know, my store was broken into a few years ago. They never found the culprit. And I found that HPD wasn't as efficient. I don't know how else to say it, when we felt we knew who might have been involved, brought it to the detective's attention and never heard another word since. So it's as a business owner, it's very disconcerting that your place of business is broken into, thousands and thousands of dollars have been stolen, not to mention the repair that you have to pay for. And they don't find the culprit. So they found the vehicle and they found some other things, but they never caught the bad guys. So I sympathize with him, especially he had so many thefts in his store. So I think we should revisit it because he's not the only one. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Rice. Moving on to sub-district reports, back again to Member Rice.
Thank you. So for District 3, which is Ward Village and parts of Kaka'ako, and I was thrilled to receive in the email from Camilla the letter from Dr. Thielen. So I look forward to working with everybody and seeing what we can do about creating more space for our puppies to enjoy and for the kahu to enjoy with their puppies, and especially at Moana Regional Beach Park. One of the things that was touched on earlier in the meeting is the homeless. It, to me, seems like there's more and more homeless in the Ward Village area, Kaka'ako, and it's increasing. I brought up 1 or 2 meetings ago about the homeless blocking the area by Fisher, Hawaii, where the monster wall art is. Our visitors from Japan love, that's the most important thing when they come to Kaka'ako. And I've had JTB Hawaii, Hawaii HIS, and JALPAC. These are all Japanese travel agencies that bring in thousands of people every day to Hawaii and want to bring more, but they don't want to come to Kaka'ako anymore. So that's going to hurt a lot of businesses. For me, I feel like Kaka'ako kind of exploded because of our visitors from Japan who discovered the powwow murals and walk around. They love taking pictures in front of the powwow murals, but I have a funny feeling that may not be taking place much longer unless something is done. So Kaka'ako, especially around the Salt area and Mother Waldron Park and throughout where the UFC gym is and all of that. There are so many wonderful murals, and it's not just our visitors from Japan, it's people from elsewhere who have learned about this fun artwork. The homeless are scaring them away, and it's not a pretty picture. So hopefully we can have more action and see what can be done about that. I brought to Council Member Nishimoto's attention the need for where the new crosswalk is at Queen Street and Waimano Street with the beacons, how even with those flashing beacons, it's still a problem. I walk across that crosswalk daily and I feel threatened almost every time I do. The cars do not stop where they're supposed to stop once the flashers start, and they pull right up to the striped lines of the crosswalk. It's scary. And mommies with children and strollers and other dog walkers and just plain old pedestrians, it's a very uncomfortable feeling. So I reached out to Scott Nishimoto's office, who was very receptive and already is taking action with the Department of Transportation to put up rumble strips on both sides of the crosswalk and paint the big in giant letters, slow down, and even place a dormant, if you will, police car there. But the other problem that's happening too is there are 5 parking meters alongside the new Kolawalo Dog Park. Well, tonight driving here, there was 12 or 13 cars parked along the side of Queen Street across from the yoga factory on the Malcolm side of Queen Street. There's only 5 legitimate parking stalls, but the rest of the cars were parked illegally. There's no police, there's no parking people who give out tickets and all of that. We need to have a focus, especially with the new playground at Kolawalo Makai and the new dog park. People are coming with the dogs in their cars or the children, and they're going to either the playground or they're going to the dog park, but they're parking illegally. It's a huge safety issue. And I don't think we don't want to see another Sarah Yara situation happen once again. People are jaywalking. They're taking their little ones and they're jaywalking. They don't even go to the crosswalk to go to the playground. And I'm just waiting for something terrible to happen, and I hope and pray it doesn't. And lastly, the Kulawalo Dog Park. I've talked with Craig Nakamoto from HCDA. I think if you've gone by, the large dog section looks terrible. The grass isn't green, it's muddy, and they're having a serious problem with vandalism with the sprinkler system. So I'm not sure. I haven't heard from him in a while, in a couple of weeks. So I'm going to reach out unless Francine Murray has an update for us if she's online today. But it really needs attention. And Craig and I talked about if we have to close it down for a couple of weeks to allow the grass to regrow, let's do it. And I don't think anybody would object to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Rice, for your sub-district report. Any other board members? Member Farinas.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to highlight some happenings that's happening. This Friday, the 25th at SALT, in honor of Earth Month, Earth Week, and today happens to be Earth Day. There's a Creative Mornings Honolulu that has a breakfast lectures that happens monthly, and it's free to attend. It's going to take place 8 a.m. to 9:30. And this month's featured guest speaker is the executive director from Sustainable Coastlines Hawaii. So there's light refreshments, there's live music, and there's vendors. And in the spirit of sustainability, they encourage the attendees to bring their own plates, cups, utensils. And yeah, for those interested in attending, please go to their link and sign up. And again, it's a free event that happens monthly, and the link is Creative Honolulu, Creative, and HNL for Honolulu.org. And that's for, of course, Sub-District 4, but everyone is welcome. Another thing too, also next Wednesday on the 30th at the Blaisdell, there'll be a career expo from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And there'll be various agencies participating. So for more information on the various participating agencies, go look up hawaiicareerexpo.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Farinas. Member Davis.
Sorry, to add on really quick to Lori's sharing of events, if anyone has, again, coming back to the newsletter, but if we get it out, it'll likely be May already. If anyone has events that they know are happening in May, and you can share those as well, it helps me create a list rather than spending time searching for every single one that I can find. So if you can share those with me, that would be really wonderful. So we can collectively write the copy and I can put it together. I'm happy to do that piece of it.
Thank you, Member Davis. Any other sub-district reports?
Thank you. Couple items. There, we were notified by non-Inc. So if you're in Sub-District 1, which a friend of mine coined it, but he called it between the K streets. So that would be King Street, Kalakaua, Kapiolani, and Keamoku. So it's between the K streets. So that's Sub-District 1. Anyway, if you're in that area, be aware, Non has informed us that they're going to be taking down their construction cranes. Starting this week, actually. They're going to be starting the process. There will be a road closure on Leona Street, which is one street down from King Street. And in particular, the key days during that period, so it'll be from April 21st through May the 10th, there'll be street closures occasionally. In specifically, the days of May 6th and 10th, they're going to have to de-energize the electric lines in the area. So if your business or resident borders Leona Street or Ahana Street, you will probably have your building be out of power. So we know for certain that the businesses on King Street are going to be without power if they're bordering Leona Street. I know that there's at least 3, possibly 4 condos that will also be, the power will be shut down. So on the 6th, it'll be from 8:30 to 10:30. And then on Saturday, which is, and I put up a big fight on this and I didn't want them to do it because Saturday would be from 8:30 to 2:30. That's a 6 hour on a Saturday. Everybody's home. And, I complain like crazy to none, but they're going to do it anyway. So that's nothing new. They don't really care about us anyway. So, yeah. So if you're in the area, expect to probably see Leona Street close and the electricity be turned off. Now, they did say that they would keep the closures as short as possible, but I'm suggesting to everybody to plan and prepare for a power outage. And if it goes longer than expected, you need to be aware of that because people have refrigerators, some buildings have elevators, some people have generators, some don't. So I'm saying that if you're in the area and if you're going to be affected, to plan ahead and be prepared for it because if you have elderly people in the building, they may have needs, maybe have medical equipment. So that's a concern. And other items, they did take care of the dead tree on Kaka'ako Street, so thank you very much. That came down pretty quick. The other tree took me 3 years. So that one month, I am stunned. So thank you very much. Yeah, it beat the meter too. So thank you very much for that. And then the last item I have is our assistant here, she informed all of us that they were doing a food drive. So I went ahead and I got some stuff. I used to do volunteer work at food bank and some of the things they need the most are canned goods. So I got canned goods with a meat product in there, canned vegetables. The other thing that they always can use is rice. So if you have bags of rice, that's always a good thing to have. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you for that sub-district report, Member Chang. Member Mariano and then Member Vanderbrink.
Madam Chair, just reference what member mentioned. Can the neighborhood commission help out in getting the word out, particularly with this, because of the businesses and the condos and maybe some medical facilities that's going, particularly electrical outage, because it's right around the corner and any type of public service announcements or flyers that can be put out would be very beneficial. Or one of those lights that they put out like on the freeway, like road closures, they can put something like that out to talk about the power outage.
Mike.
Sorry. If you know about them ahead of time, like anything like that, we can put in a newsletter. If we know about them early, it's hard, but I'll try and get all those things together for May. Anybody knows of upcoming ones too.
Yeah, so NON did actually send out letters to businesses and condos in the area, but if you're not in that affected area, you would know about it. So, but if you're going to be saying, visiting somebody or coming into a business in the area, you're going to be affected. So I just want to make it, put it out in public and let everybody know.
Thank you. Member Vanderbrink.
Member Chang, did they say if streetlights or intersections are going to be affected by that, the power outages?
Yeah, the good news is none of the streetlights are going to be affected. It's what's really going to be affected are going to be the businesses and the residences in the area that border the Leona Street and the Johanna Street.
Thank you.
Okay, any other, go ahead, Member.
Yeah, thank you, Member Chang, for that update. That's so disheartening to hear that they're going to commence this on a Saturday. Now, since you're in touch with Member Chang, you're in touch with Non Inc. Member Chang, you're in touch with Non Inc. Incorporated.
Yes, I have been, and it's been an ongoing battle with them.
Yeah, and perhaps maybe do a larger, broader PSA so that, people may not want to come into that neighborhood during those times. And
the biggest issue is the people in the area. We've been inconvenienced for over 2 years now. So we're kind of used to having them ignore us when we complain to them.
yeah, I'm so sorry to hear that. especially working on
So I really hope that the next time NON comes up and starts asking for variances on their projects, that the city council take into account that these guys don't really give a what about the residents. They don't. If they did, they would have done something to alleviate all the inconveniences, but they basically just do what they want to do.
Yeah, here, Member Chang, and bravo for your tenacity. Thank you.
Member Mariano, did you? Okay, just a quick report on my end. I mentioned it earlier that the Walmart at Kiyomoku, which is in our sub-district one, is beginning to charge for parking starting May 1st. So just a heads up to everyone. First 30 minutes is free, and then after that, I'm not sure what the price range is, but yeah. Okay, moving on. It is now 7:58. Residents and any concerns? Do we have someone from the community who would like to speak? Go ahead. Yes. And Michelle, we know your name, but if you could just restate it, first and last name.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Opatek, and I'm next to the dog park, so I appreciate Jeannie Rice, because she's very diligent about finding the correct person to make the complaints about. The safety issue is definitely a concern. Within the last week, there's been a homeless guy that was in the bushes listening to a radio because I'm on the ground floor. It's 10:30 at night. I called the API. They did come back over and scooted him away, but he had a shopping cart in the park. So not in the fenced area where the dogs are, but in the kind of open part. The other day, there was a guy with a wagon. In fact, that was last night. And I had seen it most of the day. Anyways, he was still there around 10:15, 10:30. Called the API. API told me, sorry, we only do a check every 3 hours. We're not going to come out there for an incident. So what do I do? So I went outside and I yelled at him. Hate to say it, but I did that because I didn't want to bother the police. He did move away, but I did see him again. Getting the rest of the neighborhood suggestion is made that maybe my security company would be willing to do something, hey, can't be out here. Not that he was touching the fence, which is our property, but that's definitely an ongoing thing with that park being open and kind of closed. Park hours, it's not large enough for people to see that it's 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Our building right now has put a petition out to say, can we please have less hours, like 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. I don't even know where they submitted it to. I suggested Milwaukee to your office, and let's see what happens with that. But I'm very doubtful. The safety issue, I see kids drunk over on the playground. It's API security. This is 10:30, 11 at night. Sometimes I don't sleep and I do listen. So who do I call? Do I call police? Do I call API? Because API has already told me they're not going to come for incidences. They're only going to come every 3 hours. The last thing is the dog park, or Moana Beach Park. Every morning I do my little walk around, and there is off-leash dogs. So people let them run loose. I've made videos, sent it to Honolulu 311. The police have been responded. I've actually seen them with their patrol cars going to Magic Island. Is what the people do is they come before the lifeguards, they let them run around, and then they go to Magic Island to the water, throw the ball in the water. I have some senior friends that do swimming, and they're afraid. They got dogs in the water catching the ball, and they're actually the owners on the beach taking selfies. So patrolling with the police, ATVs, I've suggested that numerous times, but again, I did see the police with patrol car, which made me feel like, wow, Honolulu 311 is working. The community as a whole really needs to stand up. Oh, very last thing is doing our survey would be great, and absolutely going to the condos in the area. But I got to tell you, Moana Beach Park is everyone comes to that park. There's a lot of people. So maybe reach out to Civil Beat and do a, hey, guess what? This is the law. You cannot have a dog in this park. But if you want to do something, answer the survey. If you are caught with a dog off leash, this is your fine. Just something educating people what a real service dog is. Maybe they'd be interested in doing a nice little beach
Ms. Michelle, thank you for your feedback this evening and for coming to our meeting. Do we have any other community concerns online? Okay, let's start with Miss. I am so sorry, my eyesight is so bad right now. Miss Laura Ruby.
Ruby, yes.
Okay, Miss Laura Ruby, you have
yes,
3 minutes.
Okay, I'm from, speaking on behalf of the Mo'ili Japanese Cemetery, founded in 1908. It has about 2,000 grave sites and about 10,000 people. Most are probably Japanese Americans, some Japanese nationals, but many other different people with different backgrounds. There are many Christians and they're not just all Buddhists. Well, you might have seen on the news, KHON, in this last week, there have been two news reports of the desecration by this one vandal, and very disappointing. The report today from the detective was that he is incarcerated now, but for how long, no one knows. He destroyed, or I should say, he hammered away at probably about 10 of the haka, or the grave sites, and what he was trying to do is get inside and steal the bronze urns to try to go to the scrap and sell for very cheap amount. Now, this is a huge destruction of something that for most people are very dear to the people's heart, because it's grandma and grandpa and so forth. And we have set up a GoFundMe because we need to have good security. We're hoping to have good security cameras. We're working on it. And we also need to raise funds to help restore those grave sites where there are no family members. And I'm so absolutely sorry for those urns that are now still missing. The police have some and we have some, but I don't think one has been found. So if you have anything, now my recommendation is to everybody, doesn't matter in this cemetery or any of the other ones, call 911 the minute you see any unusual things. The police are so happy to respond. They will understand what's going on. I have had nothing but excellent police officers coming out to help. They'll even come out starting pretty soon to do a few undercover night walkthroughs, I think. So I would really appreciate anybody that has any questions or suggestions, and certainly you can contact me through the cemetery. Thank you very much.
Miss Ruby, thank you for that. Could you leave your email address in the comments just so we can have it for
Sure, I'll do
records?
that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, now we'll move on to Mr. Frank Floyd.
Thank
You
you.
have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. So my name is Frank Floyd. I work with the Mid-Pacific Roadrunners Club, and I just want to inform the board about an event that we have scheduled in June. It's June 14th, and we work with the U.S. Vets organization. And this is an event, it's a 5K, 5-kilometer run and walk called Steps for Vet. And it's vets, the organization supports homeless vets. So it's a nonprofit organization to support homeless vets. It takes place at Moana Park and in Magic Island. The race, the run, walk starts at 8 a.m. on Saturday morning. It lasts for about, fast people only take a few minutes, but some people who walk take, an hour and a half or so. So it takes about, the whole event maybe will take about 2 hours. Last year was our first year we did it there. It was a big success. We had about 300 people. It was just a great event. They put on a really, the vets a really kind of nice event. And so we're hoping that it'll be 300, maybe 350 this year. And just to sort of, the event, people run around Magic Island and run around the whole park, and there are two places where they cross the street, and we have police there to help with the traffic at the crosswalks. And all told, we should be done by about 10 or 11 a.m. So just informing the neighborhood about the event coming up in June 11th.
Thank you, Mr. Floyd. Could you reiterate the date and the time? We got June 14th. Did we get that right?
Oh, I'm sorry. I probably said it wrong twice. Okay, it's June 14th, Saturday, June 14th, and the event starts at 8 a.m. and it should be over by about 11 a.m.
I just want to share, I hope that you guys are aware, but also for community members or any, that is the same day that we just heard presentation on for the King Kamehameha Festival that will pass through Ala Moana through on its way to Kalakaua Avenue. So I think just parking in general around that area, both with parade goers and participants in the 5K run is going to cross over a bit. So I don't know if, it's two months out ish or about 2 months out, but I don't know if, anyone can change their date that quick. So it's probably likely to happen on the same day. And I hope both are very successful, but there's definitely going to be some crossover there to anticipate from both sides and for our board as well.
Thank you, Member Davis. Member Chang?
Yeah, I got a text from a former member, Jane Cloutier. She had a complaint about the Kalakaua homes. It was brought up before, and I believe she brought it up, and I did too. They have alarms that have been going off just about every day this past month. And sometimes it's 2 or 3 times a day. And, I've heard from other residents, what is that? And it's just their alarms keep going off. They can't seem to get it fixed. And when they did respond, they said, it's vandals or kids pulling the alarms, but every day, I don't think so. So it's probably that their alarms need repair. And I know that's not the city. So it's probably Hawaii Housing. So I think that would be something that needs to be taken up. So it was just, Kalakaua Home. So it was brought up by, like I said, Jane Cloutier, who used to be on the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Chang. Member Davis?
Sorry, I just want to quick pivot back to Frank Floyd. Thank you for sharing with us. I know we commented on the date there, but thanks for letting us know. And if there's any type of information that we might be able to share on our board social media and in maybe our May newsletter, I'll write it down. We can share that event is going on for you as well. And on top of that, I'll make sure to include it maybe on the next action committee agenda to talk about the approval of multiple events on the same day. I know that's come up before, in the Kaka'ako area, having 2 events on back-to-back Saturdays. And it seems like this might be another one where I don't know who's in charge of approving all the things, but maybe there's something that we want to do to say, hey, we can only have so many events in so many weekends, and encouraging them to be, again, celebrated and all, possible to be approved, but in a more, the word for spread out that is the one I'm looking for, but I can't find it in my brain right now. So
Thank you,
yes,
Member Davis. I believe the city council had taken up something about limiting the number of parades. I don't want to. Okay.
which means they might have our.
Yep. Member Freenius?
Mr. Floyd, did you say it was a 5K run and it's going to be contained within the Ala Moana Beach Park and by Magic Island?
Yeah,
correct?
it is. And, in terms of like permitting, which is really interesting about streets and park permitting, because we just go through the park department to get a permit to use the park. And we don't really use the street at all. We stay entirely within the park. So I understand maybe parking is an issue or something and those aren't coordinated, but so it's actually a good point, although, there's such a big parking lot, we usually just have never had trouble, but we don't use the street at all. And I'm not sure, I didn't hear the part about the parade. I'm not sure what time it is, but we shouldn't.
Well, let me
interfere with that at
try
all.
to alleviate some information on the park route. It's going to be from King Street to Punch Bowl and then on to Ala Moana Boulevard, and which will traverse to Waikiki, Kalakaua to be exact. So being that you folks are going to be contained in the park, then it should be good to go for that day. But yeah, it seems to be an issue where there's multiple of events happening at the same time, but sounds like you're good to go.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Floyd, Ms. Ruby, and our community members, and Michelle for your community concerns. We appreciate it. Moving on, if the
Madam
board,
Chair?
oh,
Community things, I just want to mention something.
go ahead, Member Mariano.
April 19th was the first event for the semi-quincentennial centennial commemoration, which is the celebration of America, the 250th year. which is July 4th, 2026, which is next year. And so we open that up so that we can celebrate that. I can tell you back in the day, I attended the first one, which was We the People 200 in Center City, Philadelphia. And President Reagan was there with the honor. So here's a big opportunity because Hawaii, even though it was a kingdom back at that time, there's a lot of relationship of what happened there because that was April 19th was the first round that was shot for freedom. And as we carry on to today as the 50th state, we now take that obligation for freedom, not only here, but we're in the Indo-Pacific area to promote freedom, courage, freedom of navigation, and so on and so forth in this area here. So I want to mention that we're going to be taking on some events. We're not sure what those are going to be. There's a proclamation that was done by Governor Green and a proclamation by Mayor Rick Van Jordy. And so I attended that first event this past Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Mariano, for informing us of that. Moving on, if the board will indulge me, I'd like to take our agenda order and have Representative Kim Coco Iwamoto present, since she is here in person and she has to go soon. So we want to make sure that she is able to get her message out and we can ask her questions.
And thank you, Rory, for letting me keep you out so late. Okay, thank you. So I just wanted to share an update about, I know many of you have participated in the survey. In fact, almost 600 of you have returned responses, which is incredible. I've been asking my colleagues at the House of Representatives, I said, what's your normal response rate? And they said 250, really good response. So the fact that we got almost 600 is pretty incredible. If I may give you some highlights of the responses. The first question I asked was, I stated that there are a number of bills aimed at improving public safety. Which investment is more effective at making communities safer? Should we spend more on extending prison terms and building bigger prisons to hold more inmates? Or on the other side, should we invest more in addressing the root causes of crime, mental health services, addiction treatment, and housing? I was actually quite surprised that 70% of the responses actually said we should invest more in addressing the root causes of crime, mental health services, and addiction. So that was kind of surprising. Some other notable things. So, as you may know, the OHA's Kaka'ako Makai proposal is stalled currently. And so because it is a 2-year session, it could be reactivated next January. And so this survey results is so relevant. 27% supported the OHA Kaka'ako Makai proposal and 37% opposed it. 33% were just unsure. So that's that. One of the bigger responses of support we got was collecting GET surcharge on vacant homes. And then, which was a 65% support and another 65% support collecting fair share taxes from everyone. Actually, this is, wait 1 second. Okay, this may be the largest support is tax and regulate adult use cannabis. This one surprised me. 52% supported tax and regulate online sports gambling. So I have to share with you when there was a bill that I voted on in third reading, and I voted no on supporting online sports gambling because I thought I didn't have results at the time. But now that I have the results, I may have to change because what's the point of doing this if I'm not responding? So I may have to change my vote when it comes for final reading on this very narrow specific issue of online sports gambling, wagering. So it's not all gambling, it's not lottery, it's very narrow. And so that was but what's interesting, this was actually one of when people identified this as a high priority issue for you or as a low priority issue, actually this had the largest number of low priority designations. So that also weighs in, but still I'm probably gonna err on the side. But people can still respond. You know, the vote might not come up for a couple more days. If people want to get online, people are listening, you can participate. And then, one of the most highest priority issues was increasing controls on guns and assault weapons. And that 80% supported increasing controls on guns and assault weapons. And it was the highest level of high priority responses. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure if there are any questions.
What was that on the OHA again, please?
Yes. That one, okay, so that was 27% support, 37% oppose, 33% unsure. And then in terms of high priority or low priority, 32.7% said high priority, 18.9 or 19% said low priority. I mean, that the issue in general, like and really this is for me. I'm really saying, hey, if I get something wrong, is it a low priority issue that I got wrong in my vote? Or is it something like you guys really are passionate about, and I better get it right? You know, like that's kind of why I framed the questions that way. But yeah, any other, and so I will be, if you know, we do a huge mailing. The mailing is quite substantial that we send out to voters. We'll probably do it maybe at least once, maybe twice a year. It is quite costly. But if there's a question, one question that you guys want me to add in that would help you be useful, then we can just add in a question. But I just want to be clear. Do you see how tiny the subject is? You have to wordsmith it to be short but clear.
So I said 250 characters, everybody just makes letter.
Thank you, Representative. Questions for Representative Iwamoto and Vanderbrink?
There was that Representative Iwamoto. So in reference to the sports and online betting, personally, I have been bombarded by ads on Instagram and Google in relation to come out and support our survey to legalize it. And I just want to share that and the feelings that might be also present in your district as well. There might be just a lot of special interests that are out there trying to get people to legalize it and to get people to say yes on the survey. And I think in terms of the priority of the issue, if it's a low priority or high priority, that kind of shows that people don't really mind it as much, but they are for it. And that might just be evident of all the ad and the lobbying that those people are doing.
I agree. Yes.
I hope you do keep your no vote.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, it is. And so just to be clear too, we do have a process of filtering out people who are participating in the survey from outside the district versus inside the district. So we are trying to sift through that.
I understand you just have to represent your district, but it's just I am against it, and I just want to share what I've been feeling and what I've been seeing as well for my online usage.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And for the record, there was a creation of a task force through resolution to look at all gambling. And I did vote no on that. All gambling. Like it could be anything. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Member Iwamoto, or Representative Iwamoto, for being here in person. Appreciate it. Thank you thank you, Rory. Okay. Thank you, board. Let's go back to our agenda, agency reports.
Do I get to ask a
HCDA,
question? Could I ask a question of Representative?
Oh, okay, sure. Miss Ruby from the community has a question for Member Iwamoto.
Yes, yeah, not very long. She mentioned very quickly about recreational cannabis. And I just wanted to say that in the days of sugarcane, it was the second largest crop. That is revenue, huge revenues. We already know that in Washington State and Colorado State. And I was wondering how you might be positioning yourself on that.
Oh, well, the bill is stalled right now. However, this neighborhood board also took a position on this issue. And so I felt like I had sufficient support to vote for it when I had a chance to vote for it. And this is specifically the taxation and regulation of adult use cannabis.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Representative Iwamoto, for answering that question. Let's move back to agency reports, HTDA, and the time is now 8:23. I see that their newsletter is online, and Ms. Francine Murray is online as well.
Aloha and good afternoon and good evening. This is Francine Murray from the Hawaii Community Development Authority. Regarding the Koluwalu Dog Park, as Member Rice brought up, the HCDA staff continues to monitor the health of the grass at the large and small dog parks after vandalism to the irrigation timer affected the watering schedule shortly after the park's grand opening. There have been at least 2 more known instances of tampering with the irrigation system, including intentional damage to the irrigation heads. Police reports have been filed on that damage. And for the status, the daily heavy usage and foot traffic on the grass continues to contribute to the decline in the health of the lawn, and the staff is working on a fix. They may, like Member Rice mentioned, have to close the dog park for a couple of weeks so that the lawn can come back to life or have a little bit of a break. But if that happens before the next board meeting, as soon as I find out, I'll keep you posted via email about any type of closure. And I did hear, like she said, it may be a couple of weeks. I put a link to the newsletter in the chat, and the newsletter features an article that highlights the accomplishments of Mother Waldron and a historic timeline of the park that was named after her. It also highlights a new state report on Hawaii land ownership, and that kind of tells us a little bit about why affordable housing is so difficult to build in the state. So it's an interesting little article and great report that's attached. Are there any questions that you might have for the agency?
Thank you, Ms. Murray. Member Rice.
Hi, Francine. Thank you for your report. I've neglected to mention 2 other things regarding the dog park, and I hate to constantly harass, but the gates, the latches are just not holding up to the usage. So, you know, the constant in and out, constant in those little latches that Thomas installed on the wooden gates, half the time you really got to pull the gate to latch it. So maybe we should look at a different kind of latch. And one of the poles on the gate, the second gate into the large dog park, has been loose off the nail, and the nail is poking through, and that could be a danger. So if someone could please either take the nail out or re-nail the pole in, I think everyone would appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll bring it up.
Thank you, Member Rice. And thank you, Ms. Murray, for your report this evening. Moving on to Hart.
Hello. Hi there. Good evening, Chair, Kathleen Lee, board members and community members. My name is Marissa Gonzalez with Hart's Public Involvement Team. Just a few quick updates for tonight. For construction, utility relocation continues in the downtown Dillingham areas, including underground utilities, streetlights, traffic signals, and sidewalk restorations. Excuse me, downtown utility relocation is nearly complete, with surface restoration expected to continue into the summer. This work is essential for preparation for future guideway and station construction. Crews are also conducting geotechnical boring near Ivalay Station as we prepare for that City Center Guideway and Stations foundation work along Nimitz Highway this summer. And as a second update, Hart will also be at the Blaisdell Career Expo on Wednesday, April 30th from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. We're hiring for several positions, including IT support technician and internships in planning and engineering. So if interested in joining the Hart Ohana, job listings are available on our website, or you can email your resume and areas of interest to harthr@honolulu.gov. I will paste the info in the chat box for you. As far as my last update, we will also be having our virtual business and community meeting this Thursday, April 24th at 1 p.m. on Zoom. Our contractors will provide project updates and will also be available to answer any questions about specific lane closures, schedules, and also about construction work. That concludes my update. We appreciate the community's continued patience, and for more information or traffic update info, please visit our website at honolulutransit.org. You can always call our 24-hour project hotline at 808-566-2299. Thank you again for your time and your support.
Ms. Gonzalez, thank you for being here this evening. We appreciate it. Okay, let's move on to Honolulu Board of Water Supply. I don't see anyone on there. Moving on to elected officials reports. We are now at 8:29 and we do have a limited time frame here. So again, if the board will indulge me, I'd like to take the agenda out of order and have Mr. Ben Sullivan, who is here in person, to do his report, and then we can go down the list. Just, for the purposes of efficiency, please save your question unless they're super compelling and you feel like they cannot be addressed. Yes, if we could just go through, just so we can give everyone an opportunity to go through it. And we can also, again, get out of here since we do have a limited time frame in our space. So Mr. Sullivan from the mayor's office, thank you for being here.
Thank you all for welcoming me back. Sorry I missed last month's meeting. I got a brand new hip. I feel great. Everything's good. I'm gonna try to be fast, but I will apologize because I got a long report from the neighborhood commission, which is welcome. There was a lot of items that we hadn't gotten to. So let's just see if we can blaze through these. First of all, Member Chang's stump. Let's applaud that, right? Hey, it happened very quickly. Thank you. Not going to go into any more detail. Second one, I want to applaud you all, and this is a little bit off the script, for talking about the food drive. One of the things our office tracks, the Office of Climate Change, Sustainability, and Resiliency, is food insecurity, and it's a pretty severe problem, as you know. One of the things we're doing, one of the ways we feel is really effective to donate as well, that Member Chang talked about, is donating cash, because the food bank actually can leverage tremendously your money, can get much more food for the dollar than you can as an individual. So just a suggestion and a thought that we could share with people as a way to help them get further with the resources that they're trying to bring to the community. Third, mayor's report. Mayor's town halls are underway. The next one is in Mililani. It's Thursday night. I will get back to you, but I think in the newsletter you can see all the dates and locations to find one that works for your schedule and timing. Blaisdell Concert Hall just reopened. We're really been closed for a couple of months. It's great to have it open again. I was actually there today, and we also celebrated the opening of the new PV system on the roof for Earth Day, of all things. So that was wonderful. Parks and Recreation has the wonderful summer fun program. They're hiring. They really always have a difficult time hiring for the supervision for the young adults who do the supervision with the kids. So if you know anyone that's looking for a summer job, please send them to Director Thielen and have them sign up for summer fun. Last thing on Mayor's report, really important and serious piece of work. So the city has launched HNL Alert. And for all of you like Jeannie Rice that are savvy with their smartphone, please download that app and be informed on what's happening. Can I see a show of hands? I'm going to make you guys show your hands. Has everyone downloaded HNL Alert? Okay, most of you have. If you haven't, Member Davis, you should feel bad about it. I'm calling you out, just having fun. Just having fun. HNL Alert. Let's get it on our phones. Okay, good deal. Okay, now to the report. Actually, I'm sorry. Before I get into the report, see, you're going to cut me off, Shirley, if I get too far with this. One last thing. Our office, the Mayor's Office of Climate Change, Sustainability, and Resiliency, is holding island-wide meetings to update the climate action plan, which the city has. This is the update for the 2025 to 2030 plan. The next meeting that is near to you all is on Monday, May 5th, and that's at the Manoa from 6 to 8 p.m. Hope to see some of you there. Okay, now we get to the heavy lift. Just the beginning. Sorry about this. Broken electrical post structure nearby. Okay, this was at Ala Moana and Pi'ikoi. And this is a disappointing response, but the reality is that DTS did do some research on this and determined that it belongs to the HDOT. So not an exciting update, but why the State Department of Transportation is the one that's going to have to fix that. You guys recall this? You can see the picture. It's like a knocked over meter box in the middle of a median that the board had brought to our attention. Number 3, this is a carryover from broken road sign near the bike lane. This was at Pensacola and Elm Street. You guys could just downvote these things if you don't want to hear them. I'm just reading off the script here. BFM investigation confirmed down sign, and the sign was repaired on March 20th. So I'm not sure where that, I don't recall that one. I might have missed that meeting, but it ended well. Member Mariano has been great about reporting dirty street signs, and we've had a conversation where I've suggested that more specificity will yield results. In this case, Member Mariano had provided information about a specific street sign at the corner of Kapiolani Boulevard and Pi'ikoi Street. DFM has put in a work order. That's work order number 63696 for cleaning the street sign. So apparently that is in the queue, and we hope to see that happen soon. I hope it doesn't take as long as the original stump that Member Chang had to work on. The street sign. Did I say meter? Oh, yes, I got you. So obviously houselessness has been talked about and blocking the sidewalk a lot. This particular issue, and I don't remember the exact time it was raised, but the location was Ke'eomoku near Walmart. Is this ringing a bell for folks? Was it last meeting? Okay. So the HPD report from April 3rd to 14th, District 1, officers made checks to address the concerns. Officers found the area of Sheridan to Kapiolani Boulevard clear of any debris, litter, or houseless encampments. Observed 2 individuals, but they were on private property. Let me see. EFM has the Stored Property Branch, which the acronym is SPO, worked with the Honolulu Police Department on this, and they, looks like we're there May 21st. Individual encamped on the sidewalk, removed their personal belongings, and left the area. So obviously, a lot of this is kind of push and go, and we struggle with that as well. There is, as you all know, Anton Krucky with the Department of Community Services does a lot of work, and there's been real progress on trying to get people in beds, but not everybody wants to go there. So we're going to continue to do everything we can. I know it's slow. I know it's painful. Mayor is really focused on this. Every cabinet meeting, we talk about houselessness. That's like the number 1 item. So I hope that helps you. There's a lot of resources going into it. Just a detail. That was number 5 of, I think, about 9. Am I doing okay? Okay. Request for a traffic study for the intersection in front of Convention Center, Kapiolani Boulevard, Atkinson Drive. Member Vanderbrink requested if a traffic study could be conducted for the westbound lanes on Kapiolani Boulevard, and provided context about congestion in the area and other concerns. There's a broader response from DTS which really captures that, in that what they said is that Department of Transportation Services is currently in the process of contracting a consultant to study 7 Tier 1 high pedestrian injury corridors in urban Honolulu, including Kapiolani Boulevard, South King Street, Beretania Street, Pi'ikoi Street, and Kaka'ako Street in the Ala Moana area. These corridors need significant pedestrian and bicycle safety infrastructure improvements that would be planned through this project. Recommended solutions may include crosswalk enhancements, lane reconfigurations, traffic signal changes, speed limit reductions, transit priority treatments, and bike lane improvements. The project will also evaluate overall traffic conditions and propose changes to existing traffic control signals, signage, and striping. The project is expected to begin this summer, and hopefully you'll hear about that. But please come back to us if you want more as it gets going. I imagine it'll take 18 months to a couple of years, but I don't have that information directly. So that's a kind of a bigger answer to the more focused question.
That's just a study, not necessarily the work itself.
The study has to happen, and then the work happens. And just for your edification, the process for these kind of improvements is like 3, 5, 7 years. It does take time. If there is a critical situation and it's known and identified, sometimes there's faster action, but I can't really speak to that specifically.
I think I'm gonna definitely be taking more photos there, because I think it is more of a critical issue, and I probably bring them to every meeting just to indicate how critical it is.
Understood. Okay, lots of photos. Item number 7, inspection requested for crock pole structure and big tree near the pole. This is at Kapilani and Kamakee, which is McKinley High School, obviously. And I can see the picture. There's like an electrical wire sticking out. It looks pretty hazardous. So there was, PFM did check it out, and they referred it to the Division of Public Building Equipment Maintenance for an investigation and appropriate action. So that is moving ahead. DPR talked about the tree. Their response was that arborists did not observe any tree branches from city monkey pods. Here we are. It's always a jurisdictional question. Trees in noted location obstructing traffic signal lights. The Duff arborist did note that on the Mauka side, across the reference Kapiolani Boulevard KA Street intersection, he did observe branches from a private monkey pod tree slightly obstructing traffic signal when turning left from the westbound lane. So I don't know if whoever provided this information, if that makes sense to you. I'm not placing a. Okay. And are they thinking of the right tree when they cite turning left from the westbound lane?
I think that they brought up the mountain side, but it's on both sides, so.
Okay. Okay.
Branches and the tree leaves are, but it's an interesting paper.
And there is the other line. There is a channel for that, but the channel is through the Department of Planning and Permitting. So they referred it to the Department of Planning and Permitting Residential Code Enforcement Branch.
But nonetheless, it's going to be taken.
That's where it went, which means that division will then look at the complaint, try to understand and see if there's action to be taken. So if you follow up again, we can see where that goes. It'll be difficult for me to track, just like on an ongoing basis, unless that's what the board desires. Okay. Okay.
So that utility cover that pole that covered the state, all the wires.
They didn't take care of it. That's in the queue. So they acknowledged it. They put it in the pipeline. So the report did not say that it was resolved. It just said that they. Sure. No, great. The questions are great. I apologize for talking fast. You all know.
That's okay. We are at the 8:40 mark, so we appreciate that since we still have the rest of it.
8 and 9. Roof that tree. Remember, Chan, we already talked about this. I'm going to skip it. 940 Peck Street. Good stuff. They were waiting for the one utility report to make sure that there was no underground issues with the stump. That's why sometimes it takes a little longer. Sometimes they don't respond on that. The last one, tree maintenance. Board is concerned with all the trees that are falling within the district. They would like to bring to the attention of the DPR Division of Urban Forestry and the board's concerns on the trees and heavy branches falling, and if there could be an inspection for trees in the area and trimming of the ones identified as possible safety hazards. The DPR response is committed to keeping Oahu cool by planting and maintaining trees throughout our communities. Trees perform important environmental services. I think we all know that stuff. It's appreciated and acknowledged here, though. Enhancing the quality of life. Duff takes public safety very seriously, and we inspect trees regularly to make sure diseased trees are removed and weak limbs are pruned. Please note that the highly publicized fallen monkey pod tree on Kaka'ako Street near Kapiolani Boulevard intersection involved a privately owned monkey pod tree that is not maintained by the city. That's the response we got. If that's something you guys want more information on, obviously we can talk to the DPR and see.
Member Vanderbrink?
Yes, so that was a private tree on KO.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't say it right now, but yes.
Yes.
Okay. KO Komoku. I did have follow-up questions, but because we are limited on time, if it's all right, I can email you after this and CC Camillus. That way it stays all public and I can get answers by the next meeting.
Sure. I guess I want to have a side conversation at this point with Chair Lee just to understand the process, because typically it's the board as opposed to individual members that are kind of sending questions, and not to take anything away from your questions. And I understand the time limitation. I'm just want to make sure we're following the appropriate protocol.
Yep. Okay, thank you. Well, we'll go over that. We'll go over it with the board as well, especially when it comes to protocol and the meetings and how fast we go and like whose turn is what. So we might have to do a refresher. Remember, Mariano?
Yeah, just one last one, because I wasn't here at the last meeting, but prior, I talked about the sidewalk on Kapiolani Boulevard. That's right on, it's a Pensacola, Kapiolani Boulevard. It's on the McKinley side. There's a tree root, and that sidewalk is pretty high, and it's impeding people with disability, particularly handicaps, wheelchairs. I mean, it's pretty high. It's about 2-3 feet above.
Amelia's ready to get down, so that means we'll have it in a report and it'll circulate.
Thank you. Thank you, Member Mariano. And thank you, Mr.
Lastly, I just want to say thank you so much for keeping track of all these things. You do a really good job.
It's these guys, right? I get to read the report. They're the ones that do all the work. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you guys. I really think it's important to be here in person. And thank you for letting me go first because of that. I'm going to stop because I know you got a lot more to do.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan, from the mayor's office. Appreciate it. Okay.
The bus. Heard it.
Moving on, and again, we are pressed for time, so I want to emphasize that if anyone has any questions for our representatives or legislators, to contact them because they have been putting their newsletters in the chat. Senator Moriwaki's office representative, I see Mr. Kopshi.
Looks like there it is, or not. Looks like I'm having trouble with the video, but yeah, I put Senator Moriwaki's newsletter in the chat. If you guys have any questions for her, feel free to reach out. We are just now wrapping up with conference for the budget, so we've been hard at work at that, but we're ready to kind of start refocusing and addressing some issues.
Okay, thank you, Kopshi, from Senator Moriwaki's office. Moving on. Representative Ikaika. Oh, I thought we saw you online.
Hi, good evening, everybody. I'm here.
Okay,
Can
go
you hear me?
ahead, Rep.
Okay.
Olds.
I'll just try to do this as quickly as I can. The others can speak. So, yep, we only have about a week and a half left. I know Chair here has also been really busy at the Capitol, so kudos to her for all the good work she's been doing on the Senate side. So right now, just a report. So one of my bills, HB 943, which would create a homeless triage center for mental health and substance abuse treatment, is getting close to the finish line. Looks like we have some funding for it. We just have to see if it will survive the conference. Also, my House concurrent resolution 180 was adopted. I highly recommend taking a look. It basically is calling on the different levels of the government to focus their efforts on addressing the homeless issue. And lastly, I just want to talk about the Kaka'ako homes. I did hear about the alarms, so I just sent an email out to the Hawaii Public Housing Authority in regards to the alarms to see exactly why the reason they keep getting triggered. So we'll see what that is. And then also, because I wasn't here for last month's meeting, the pines. An arborist did come out and check out those pines that are on the south side of that property. So for our neighbors that live around that area that are concerned about it, they did clear the trees. Okay, sorry, that took a long time. And I don't know if I could take questions.
Thank you, Representative Olds, for being here online this evening. And we have your email address. I believe we do. If not, we can just drop it in, or we can easily look it up. So thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you.
Representative Adrian Tam, or an individual office.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this is Flora, Representative Tam's office manager. He was tied up due to conference stuff. Like everyone else reported, we are in conference. Bills are TBD. Like, we will see what happens over the next 3 days. We do still have two great homelessness related bills that are alive: the return to home program and then the youth shelters bill. That would make both of those programs permanent, with permanent funding throughout the state. So those are two that probably have the most interest to all of you, but we will have more to report back next month, along with our legislative summary that we do at the end of every session, which will be mailed out to you in June. So I don't think we have time for questions either.
Thank you, Flora. And if you could drop Rep. Tam's email address in the chat, so in the event that people want to ask the report. Appreciate you being here this evening. Okay, moving on to Councilmember Tyler Dos Santos Tam, or I believe I saw Robin online, or she had posted his newsletter.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Okay. Sorry, just in the
quickness of time. Our office was contacted by board member Lori. It was concerning the crosswalk and traffic light installation on South King and Holly Mackay Street. For background, the federalized review process delayed the project. It was expected to start at the end of this year. Now we're uncertain when it's gonna start, but that was from Deputy Director John Nucci of DTS. And then on April 4th, beginning of the month, we passed Bill 1, which is outdoor service dining, which is especially relevant to the Ala Moana Kaka'ako area, especially for the Ward Village area. And then all the little details are in the chat box. So thank you, guys.
Thank you. We have one quick question from Member Farinas, and then we'll.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Robin, for your follow-up. I really appreciate you steering this and getting an answer in a timely manner for this evening's board meeting. I do want to clarify, because there seems to be some confusion in terms of, you noted in the chat that it's on Hale Mackay. Hale Mackay faces Beretania, South Beretania. So I'm speaking, so on South, is that Ala Mackay? I'm just trying to get the correct names of the streets. So in terms of when neighbors ask, where exactly, because Hale Mackay is on the backside of the police station fronting Beretania Street, and the crosswalk or light installation that I'm and my neighbors are inquiring is on South King Street. And I believe that street is named Ala Mackay. So could you please verify?
I can definitely verify. Those were the street names I was given, but absolutely, you're right there in the area. So I can definitely correct that and verify with you this week, hopefully, since I have the deputy's email and in communication right now. So yeah, I can get back to you.
And one last thing, since I got you, and
Yeah.
so there seems to be the bike lane fronting the station there, the street that I'm speaking of, South King and Ala Mackay. So they shut down the bike lane. So my neighbors are inquiring, how long and why? Because what we've noticed is they're doing some kind of excavation. So I'm curious as well too. So whenever excavation is involved, it seems to take on much longer. So just maybe not this evening, and in the interest of time, maybe report back at the next neighborhood board. So we're just curious to know what's happening with that closed bike lane, and it's not being repainted over. There's some archaeological excavation happening. So what gives? Why so? And what's the ETA of completion date? Thank you, Robin.
Thank you, Lori.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Hensky, on behalf of Councilmember Tyler Dos Santos Tam. Moving on to Councilmember Scott Nishimoto or his office representative.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. I am gonna try to make this short, but I did submit those 2 risers. Thank you, Jeannie, for following up with council member about the pedestrian safety concerns regarding the crosswalks on Queen Street and Waimanu Street next to the new Kolowalu Dog Park. I put in the risers for the rubble strips and painting slow on the road before the crosswalks, and to have an HPD officer hopefully monitor that area. And after you followed up with council member, we put in another riser regarding the parking stalls in that area too. So I'll keep monitoring those and follow up with you on that. And council member will be at the Earth Day celebration at Palolo Valley District Park this Saturday, April 26th at 9 a.m. to noon, and he will be participating at the Makiki Park cleanup with Maryknoll School this Friday and attending the Roosevelt concert on Sunday. And I did put our e-blast in the chat, and I think that's everything. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Pia Anderson, on behalf of Councilmember Nishimoto for being here this evening. Next we have Governor's representative. I saw Mr. William New from DCCA.
Hello, William New, Governor's representative to the Ala Moana Kaka'ako Neighborhood Board. Just want to highlight
some of the items from the newsletter or some initiatives from the administration this month. I dropped a link to the newsletter in the chat, but one of the highlights was earlier this month, they held an annual gun buyback where 367 guns were turned in voluntarily by the public. That was a successful gun buyback event, and it usually occurs annually. As you may have heard, there is a measles. There's concerns regarding measles across the country and in Hawaii. There's been 2 cases in Hawaii now, and the administration wants to encourage all the members of the public, especially the elderly and seniors, to consider a booster shot for measles, which is the MMR vaccine. And that would help mitigate its spread. Measles is highly contagious and highly dangerous for many of our individuals. I received 2 questions from the board last week regarding sorry, my son just ran around. One regarding guidance from the state to the Department of Education when it comes to ICE raids and actions taken at the Department of Education. I understand earlier this month, the Office of Attorney Generals provided all the Department of Education, administration, and schools with direct and firm guidance on how to respond and some of the policy procedures to enact. There's another question regarding the governor's position or actions in response to the federal administration's, I guess, positions towards the transgender community. As you may be aware, or if you weren't aware, the state of Hawaii has, and its Office of Attorney General has been leading many of the challenges to the federal administration and to this current president through executive orders and as such. That Hawaii's AG's office has led 7 of the suits, including challenging and successfully winning in court the injunction to limit DOG's Department of Government Efficiency access to private data at the Treasury. That was led by the AG's office here in Hawaii. They're also involved in a range of other challenges to the state or to the federal administration. Regarding the transgender community, as far as where a lot of these states, the blue states or democratic states, are with the same mission and alignments, they joined together on multi-state suits and challenges. So while Hawaii wasn't leading one of these suits, they have joined in a statement reaffirming gender-affirming care and protecting access to gender-affirming care. This Attorney General Kwame Raoul of Missouri is leading a lawsuit against the federal administration to protect transgender rights. But just want to highlight that as a report, and that's all I have for today.
Thank you, Mr. New from the Governor's Office. Vanderbeek.
I'll make it fast. So I do thank you for that, getting that information over. In particular, when it comes to the trans community, I noticed a lot of your answers were referring to what the AG is doing and her actions. I just want to say that I wish the governor would speak up more to it, would talk about it, especially gender affirming care, because he is a doctor and he would know about it more than the person. And I wish he would attend more where there are more discussions about the trans community, like the Queer Day at the Capitol that was going on. We had the lieutenant governor come downstairs and talk to people and pose for photos, but we know the governor was upstairs and he never decided to come downstairs to participate, to show face, or to take any pictures. So I do wish the governor would do more on that, because the trans community is really hurting. There is a lot of anxiety, and it would be good to hear from the governor more on this issue.
Thank you, Member Vanderbeek. Okay, thank you, Mr. New, for representing the Governor's Office this evening. I don't see anyone from Congressman Case's office. Let's move on to announcements. Upcoming events: Police Week kickoff May 12th. The Shinyo and Lantern Floating is on Monday, May 26th. I don't see anyone on there. Okay. King Kamehameha Celebration Floral Parade, we already heard about Mr. Kalaloa's presentation. It's on June 14th. We have the links. And yes, we do have our board voting. It's actually in our announcements. So Friday, April 25th is when voting begins. Voting ends on May 16th. And you can visit the NCO website for more information. And again, our neighborhood board assistant Camellia is still donating for, or still accepting donations for Hawaii Food Bank. Next action committee is on Thursday, May 8th, and our next regular board meeting, same time, same place, every fourth Tuesday of the month. It's May 27th next month. We are broadcasted on Alelo. The time is now 8:58. Thank you everyone for being here this evening, and our meeting is adjourned.